watching a game.
Good evening and welcome to our second of our budget sessions. We are here to discuss some vitally important departments to our city this evening. We have a full quorum present. All council members are present. I'm Mayor Bianca Motley-Brew, and it is 6:36 p.m. now. And I will turn it over to our city manager, Ms. Darnetta Tyus.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It is absolutely with pleasure and an excited team behind me that we move forward with the second of 5 budget briefings associated with this budget. Tonight we're presenting the agencies who are responsible for our strategic goal number 2, which is quality of life. So you will hear from our Recreation and Culture and Arts Division, Engineering, as well as Public Works. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my Recreation and Cultural Arts team as they present. So Madam Mayor, we'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Tyus.
And we are ready.
Ms. Johnson? All right, so the first area is Recreational Admin, and there are 3 pages in that. Any questions on page 1?
Mayor, before we get too far into that, I just wanted to, Michelle, I'm glad you're here. I didn't think you'd be here, but I'd be remiss if we didn't send out our condolences to you and your family. First things first. Again, I had a little something for you actually, but I didn't think you'd be back this soon. Obviously, it goes without saying. So, but yeah. So.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Well, I have a question on page 1. The second line, line 51, 50, 30. Taking part-time salary down to 0.
Yes, ma'am. So the park rangers, that was the part-time
I
park
see.
rangers, so those have been moved over to Public Works. Yes.
Okay. Had another question on that page. Line 52, 6200. Nothing for training.
I had the same question.
So with conventions and meetings, we put that in there with the conventions and meetings. So that would be training, whether we go to GRPA or NRPA would be able to do that through that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your answer, Michelle.
Sure. So if you look in conventions and meetings, we put it in there with the conventions to go to GRPA or NRPA for one of
Okay.
us, the assistant director or the director, to do that. And there would be training available at that.
All right. Any other questions on page 1?
Yes,
All
yes, I do. On your vehicle, you've spent $6,200 already, and you've actually decreased the amount for next year to $2,000.
Yes, sir. So we have a new vehicle that is to replace that director's vehicle that's 20 years old, over 100,000 miles. So whatever maintenance would be, we will have a new vehicle.
So you don't expect any other significant?
For that one vehicle, correct. That's only one vehicle in,
Okay,
in
this
admin.
is,
yes, yes, sir.
Okay, this is just the director's
Just the
vehicle.
administrative
And-
budget.
So that was $6,000 in repairs on one vehicle. Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's what she's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that
Okay.
vehicle is,
Another area that I had a question on was the telephone.
I had that one.
You spent $33,591, and you're going up to 50,000. If you linearized it, you'd be going up to about 44,000. So what's happening with telephone that's increasing it so much?
Is that for
yes,
Lord Bradley?
IT.
I mean, that communications and utility block has been markedly higher for everyone across the board.
Yes, that's based on
Well, it's
you
not
make sure
based
you're
on
close to
actuals,
the-
because if
close
it
to
were
the-
linearized based on actuals, it should go up to 44,000. It's going up to 50, almost 51.
The mayor was inquiring about another account, not the account you're referring to. The telephone account is based on the information.
Talking about line 52, 5240.
Yes, your telephone account, but I was answering the mayor's question about utility services.
I can't understand you, I'm sorry.
I was answering the mayor's question before I answered yours, but as far as the 5240 telephone line item, that is based on the information we received from IT, and I did identify the charges that they are correct based on current charges.
But then something doesn't agree, right? Because current charges say that we've spent $33,600 roughly
Over how many months?
over a period of, that should be 75%. We're at 112%. The report was run at the beginning of April. So you've got April, May, and June.
I probably have March, April, May, and June. And depending on when those bills came in.
So you're saying that 75% is not the right number?
Correct.
Is that true for the entire budget?
Probably, depending on when the bills come in. If it's a March bill, I probably won't get it until mid-April. If it's a February bill, I probably won't get it till the middle of March or even later. So it depends on when those checks are processed.
Okay.
Any other questions on page 1?
I had a few, and see conventions and meetings. I see you got a big increase here. Obviously, there probably wasn't a whole lot of action last year, but so what's the plan? I see an $8,000 request that was dropped to 1,000. What is it that you wanted to do?
We were looking for both the assistant director and myself to look into NRPA, which was, I think it was Las Vegas. It was somewhere distance-wise.
What is NRPA? What is it?
National Parks and Recreation Association, along with the GRPA, which is the Georgia Parks. So trying to hit both of those conventions is what we were trying to do.
Was that something that you normally did annually, or?
I'm not sure what they've done in the past, but NRPA being, nationally recognized, trying to get out there to get some information.
So is this, would this be going to the event?
Going to a convention
Okay.
and meeting and training.
Well, you're at least going to the Georgia one then, right?
Correct. One of us will, correct.
Okay. I didn't understand a thing about the telephone. I don't know what the story is on it. So is it something we were underbilled and then overbilled, or, I mean, if 2022 is gonna be 33.5 here, we're anticipating more as part of this 50,800 bills from last year? Is that what it is? Is that what happened?
Is that the previous question? Council member, this only includes expenses up to about March. So we still have April, May, and June. We still have 3 more months worth of billing to go against.
It might
Okay,
actually
well,
include,
Yes.
it may omit March, actually, right, from what Mr.
Correct.
Lord Bradley was saying.
Yes.
In other words, we
And
haven't
when this
gone through
report was run, we
3/4 of the
wouldn't have
year,
necessarily
Joe.
had the March.
Right. I understand we're three quarters of the year, or thereabout.
Yeah, so we've only gone, let's
Right.
say, 2/3 of the year.
Right.
That's right.
So you have
Okay,
to
okay.
add on.
So we'll be at 50 in July.
Pretty close.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
It's kind of hard to linearize it when we don't know if it's March or, 4 months or 3 months to go, so.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions on page 1?
Nope.
Hearing none, we'll move to page 2.
I got a question about the citywide events. I know it's going up. More events or?
Correct. So we added the movies on the lawns, the jazz on the lawn, trying to get more into the cultural arts programming. Also looking at funding outside with grants, and we would have to meet that 50%. So looking at hopefully bringing in $50,000 with grants.
Is there any chance to get some sponsors for some of these events?
That's what I was looking at with part of the grant funding with Fulton County Arts.
Okay.
So trying to do $50,000 outside of, but you'd have to meet that 1-to-1 ratio for the grant funding.
I mean, there could be some local groups that want to participate in the
For-
parade and other things, and
Correct. So it does list all those events that we typically do, the parade, Light Up, College Park, but there are more cultural art events, Black History, like I said, music on the lawn, doing the movies on the lawn, trying to do some more cultural outside of what we've done in the past with cultural arts being added about 4 years ago to our programming.
no, I think it's a great getting people out, getting people more involved with the city. I like to see people on the lawn listen to the jazz and so forth. So
There's
thanks
a
for
great
what y'all are
storyteller
doing.
on Friday.
I missed it.
My question is, Ward 4 Festival was approved by Mayor and Council as a citywide event. Even though we don't mind finding our money, it could at least be mentioned in
Okay.
the conversation.
Sure,
Because it
absolutely.
does bring, 1,000 visitors.
Sure.
So at least could it be part of the conversation?
Okay, absolutely.
Well, where is that city event? Where's the Ward 4 city event? Is it in Parks and Rec's budget here, or?
No, is it in the special? The
No,
line
it's,
item?
it's not listed as a citywide for Parks and Recs. I wasn't aware that was something that the rec department would support for that, but.
Well, I mean, it was part of this council to add.
Well, I certainly don't remember what budget it's in, but I don't know if, I guess, at least, my question was in terms of citywide events as well. In addition to that, was City Fest ever in your budget or parts of that at all, or where was that at?
My understanding, that was done through the Fulton County Arts Grant. I believe that was a $50,000 request that the prior director had requested for that.
And I know it wasn't all Fulton County, because we put in a pretty penny as well, and usually it was around 80 or 90.
I think that was in that.
And I know, we're in a different time and place, obviously, but I would like for us to possibly discuss a smaller version of that potentially, at least take a look at it. But in terms of the Ward 4 Festival, we did consider it a citywide event in a sense, because a huge chunk of my residents participated in that, and technically speaking, it sat in Ward 2. But I want us to do as many activities as we can coming out of this thing that we can afford. It's been a long time, and people are looking for, if they see the city's alive and vibrant and going, and they'll feel better about things, so it's not wasted money necessarily, but obviously I don't think we can spend like we used to be able to, but I'd like us to talk about some dialed down versions of something at some point here, so. Yeah. So you have that itemized out in terms of this, you asked for 62.
Yes, sir.
Would that give you a little cushion if we wanted to do some extra things?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm fine with giving you that, but obviously you're not spending it until it comes before us, whatever it is, right?
Well, like I said, as far as the Ward 4, that's certainly something discretion-wise y'all can direct us to do.
Unless the money's in some other budget or something, it wouldn't hurt to have it there if we decide we want to do it or how we want to do it or whatever have you, but you say, you need a little bit more if we were going to look at doing that?
Yeah, I'm not aware of what those costs are that would be needed, so maybe Councilman Gay could give some guidance.
It was always a partnership where we go out and raise most of the money, but there was money always put in it, and as well as the City Fest. I clearly remember it being put in the special, a portion of it was being put in the special events budget, so those two items needs to be included. The minutes can reflect that.
Yeah, okay. Apologies, I didn't know anything prior to my predecessor being.
Ms. Tice?
If it's the will of the council, then for a little more information, we'll add those.
Well, if we're doing the budget now, if we can put it put the 62 in, and maybe we don't spend it all, or whatever have you, but at least we earmark something if we do decide whatever it is we want to do. Again, if it's a dialed-down version of these or something, that I'd like us to be able to at least have it. And if we don't spend it, we're good.
Okay.
But that's just me.
What about 5,000 each? As there's all the other citywide events, there's no other.
See, 10,000, that would take us almost up to 62. That'd take us to 58, 7. I mean, well, just go on and put 60 in there.
Yeah, split the difference a little bit.
You put 60 in, that's 12,000 as opposed to 5,000 each. It's just a little more that way we got a decent number in to work with.
Any other questions on page 2?
No.
Hearing none, any questions on page 3?
Nope.
Hearing none, on the budget level, questions on page 1 of 3?
This budget is, how many employees is this totally in this budget?
Are we in program 6110? Is that what they're?
No, we're just in recreation admin.
Just admin?
Oh, admin, just 3. Yes.
Just the 3?
Yes, just 3.
Okay.
I don't have any questions till we get to programs.
I'm good.
Okay, page 2?
I got you all are back on that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm on the budget level. Page 3. Okay, hearing none, we will go ahead and move forward to recreation programs.
And that's where I have my first question.
All right, go right ahead, Councilman Clay.
Very first line, 51-50-10, salary. We had an amended budget for 2022 of 417,000. We've actually spent 262, and that I expect is not due to late bills. Since that's salary. So if you linearize that, that would take us up to 350K, and we're jumping to 536K almost, when the actual amount we spent is only 262. So why the big jump?
I believe that, I'm gonna let Al say it, but we have frozen positions, so the salaries were not spent.
Were the frozen positions frozen in the amended budget?
My understanding.
Yes.
So how many positions are we talking that were frozen?
I believe it was 3. We had 2 rec leaders. 2 rec leaders, receptionists. Yeah, 3.
Pardon?
3 positions, 2 rec leaders and a rec receptionist.
3 positions, which would take us from 350K to 522.
And the increases as well?
I assume the city manager, when she took it from 522 to 535, she was factoring in increase.
Yes. Correct.
So something just doesn't seem right.
Ms. Fleur-Bradley, can you look into that in a little bit more detail? And
Yes, I'm
Okay.
pulling up the schedule now.
All right. Any other questions on page 1?
I have
Well-
a question on the organizational chart, if I can ask that.
Sure. And there were also positions that weren't filled also. I mean, they may have been filled later, like we just filled some
Oh, well, that-
positions.
That would make a,
Yeah, so
that
there are
would
positions
explain a
that
good
we
difference.
just got filled, like a full-time custodian that was open, but we didn't, during COVID.
well,
no
how many
programming.
do you think that might be roughly? Do you have any idea?
How many, I'm sorry?
That weren't filled? a good portion of the years.
Gymnastics instructor, the gymnastics coordinator, the assistant gymnastics coordinator, the assistant rec leader. So there were several positions, I would say 3 or 4.
Okay, well, maybe that makes sense then.
Yeah,
Maybe
that
adds
we're
up-
not
adds up to
completely,
the
we just are getting
Okay, it
applicants.
just seemed like a big difference. And then I assumed that the jump from 521 to 535 was probably the city manager recommending the amount of overall increase in there.
Yeah, and also
Yes.
even part-time gymnastics instructors. We've had 5 or 6 positions that we haven't been able to fill. So, but that's part-time, not the full-time, but.
Okay, so those are,
So that explains
Okay.
the jump between both of them.
I'm good.
Okay, Councilman Allen?
I had a question on the organizational chart you have here. You broke down a line from the center supervisors to the gymnastics coordinator. And then over at another line, you have the assistant gymnastics coordinator. Why doesn't the assistant report to the coordinator?
That should be corrected.
Oh, okay.
Gosh.
Okay. It just looked like it should come down from that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, back to page 1.
I have a
good,
question.
good.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman, is it on the,
It can be, yes. Is the park maintenance solely gonna be on building and grounds, or would recreation have any role? Because there's no park maintenance position in the org chart.
Yeah, so the parks are under Public Works and Parks and Grounds. The only thing that we've handled in the parks would be the facilities, like the field maintenance for Evans and for soccer field.
I was going to add, Councilman Gay, I was going to ask the question later, but since we're bringing it up again, we had the park rangers in buildings and grounds. We moved them for some presumably good reason to recreation. Why are we moving them back to buildings and grounds?
So we're not, recreation and cultural arts are not in the parks daily. So we are handling programming, so we don't have vehicles to go out and check the parks, so we don't have somebody riding by. So I'm not sure why my predecessor brought back the park rangers. They were originally in rec, then went back to Public Works, and then back to us, and now they're back. But it's hard for us to oversee while we're not out there daily.
So my question is then, what will keep us from moving them back to recreation in a year or two? I mean, I've lived through this in industry where we flip things back and forth. We can't seem to make up our mind whether we want it here or there. And every time we move it, we see a disadvantage once we get it moved. And then we flip it the other direction and we see the disadvantage why we moved it in the first place.
Council member, we think it's practical where it is now. So I would be uncomfortable with it being in Michelle's unit just for the reasons that she stated. We think that it's a better supervised function in Public Works.
So
Not like
when I see a problem in the park, here's, and I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other, but one of the advantages of having the park rangers under recreation was that if I saw a problem with the recreational program, or I saw people who were renting the park, which isn't controlled by buildings and grounds, it's controlled by recreation, I wouldn't be calling the park rangers, I would be calling Michelle. And it seems to me that the park rangers are there to manage the use of the park, the people, and not whether there's paper on the ground, whether the trees aren't trimmed, et cetera, et cetera. Those are building and grounds functions, but they're not there for that. I know we do have park rangers clean up the park because they're there and it's an economy to do so, but their primary function is to administer the use of the park by people, not trees or grounds or what have you. And so that's why I thought it made sense, and I wasn't the one that advocated moving them, but I thought it made sense. Okay, fine, put them in recreation. So now if I have a problem with the way that the people are being handled in the park, I have to go to Buildings and Ground to complain about it,
No,
as
for
opposed
people,
to
you're gonna
going to
go
Michelle?
No, for people and programs and how they're operating, you're gonna go to Michelle. For the care of the facility itself or the grounds, then we're gonna do Melissa. Lots of things that we do have crossover. Lots of, I mean, not just this. I'm talking
Absolutely.
almost everything that we do has crossover. So we put everything in a primary place, even though they work together. So that's the thing. So you'll get service, and they do work together, but everything needs to have a primary place to function from.
And that's the story of my life in industry, okay? I've always had that problem.
Yes, sir.
So I guess I've always tried to locate things in the area where they had the closest binding. And it struck me that park rangers, their binding is with people, not with facilities. And that doesn't quite seem to be the case here.
No.
Councilman Gay?
I think it's gonna be next to impossible for Building and Grounds to manage the people, simply because our parks
Right.
are very active.
That's right.
And here's the other problem. I've seen people get arrested out there because of miscommunication. And it takes someone from recreational to know those rules and to have booked those procedures. I can't see people from Building and Grounds managing that piece.
And they won't, and they don't. That's why Michelle is responsible for the
But
program.
Michelle, on Saturdays, Sundays, she's not out there. We got 4 parks active. Someone needs to be from recreation at those parks.
So the main source for the park rangers is to oversee the park.
But those are now the police. The park rangers are the police, right? Didn't we put the
No,
park
so
rangers on the
they're
police?
basically there to oversee the pavilions and to pick
We
up
have park
trash.
rangers?
For,
I didn't know that. I thought they went to police.
no.
No, sir.
So they were under recreation, and what part of the handoff was is we would have them seasonally, and then after we were done, it would go back to Public Works, on Parks and Grounds for them to, so we were crisscrossing, which it made it sense for one department to handle that year-round instead of, I've got it this part of the season, you've got it the other half of the season. So to be consistent, Public Works has it, we only have it 3 months out of the year. They have it the rest of the year, so it made it more consistent for them to monitor the parks year-round.
Councilman Carn?
Well, you finished, Roderick?
Thank you for asking, but I just want to be clear. Park rangers report to police or recreation?
They had reported to recreation during the seasonal times. That's the only time we had park rangers, was during the summer months.
Someone add them to this chart.
What's that?
Park rangers.
No, so they're not, that's what we're saying, we're moving them to Parks and Grounds. So it
They're
would
in
be a
Public
year.
Works.
So,
Public Works.
so are we saying then that 9 months of the year, they might be digging ditches? And 3 months of the year, they're doing park ranger duty?
Well, majority of their job was overseeing the parks, the pavilion rentals, and picking up trash, or cleaning the restrooms.
So the rest of the 9 months of the year, maybe they're picking up trash?
I think they were hoping that they could add and help too, and I don't want to speak wrong.
And we're doing Public Works at the end of this. I'd like to give Melissa the opportunity to explain to you better what she's doing the rest of the time with park rangers.
Are they going to be
Okay.
working 12 months a year rather than 3?
That-
I'm gonna ask the council to allow Melissa to explain the duties of the park rangers during the time that she has them.
Okay.
Councilman Carn?
Okay, and I get the reclassification. I mean, it makes logical sense in that aspect. So I get it, Ms. Tice, if we're doing it the right way. And one of the big issues, communication, department to department communication. You know, that makes sense. Buildings and grounds, they're out every day. I get that. Parks and Rec, more on the programming side. So if buildings and grounds are going to be out handling the parks every day, they are in fact de facto park rangers. I get that, because the issues are going to come up, and then you get the mixed bag. You know, they're out and, you know, they see a net down on one of the tennis courts, the lines can get blurred. I think if they're out daily, I think Parks and Rec has to be communicating a whole lot more every day with Parks and Rec. And it can't be, oh, that's a Parks and Rec issue, that's not Public Works concern, or vice versa. That's a Public Works concern, that's not Parks and Rec. If it's a team effort, it's got to be a team effort.
Council member, you absolutely have just articulated the team that you see here today.
Well,
This goal is quality of life, and this is the team that's working together. So
I've seen it before. I spend a lot of time out at the parks, so you know, I'm well aware of kind of the issue. But miscommunications in general, when I talked about our department heads not talking to each other enough, there's not a weekend that goes by that you don't see this happening. I can recall a couple of weekends ago, Badgett Stadium had a big crowd out there. There was baseball going on. There was track going on. There was something in the middle there, soccer or something on the other side. I mean, playground was full. Great day, great events going on. Pretty much all of them were free, which is even a bigger bonus for residents and folks that come around to see this. So we're inviting everybody out. Come on to College Park, have a great time and enjoy yourself. We want you to spend time in the city. Spring is here, COVID's over, things are looking good, right? But we're not communicating. Parks and Recreation and the police department, they're both out there. Now, both of these departments know good and doggone well that we don't have adequate parking, especially when we have a lot of events going on. That's not news to anybody. But no communication. We can't, as a city, invite folks out for free to enjoy the day with their children, knowing that there's not adequate parking, so they're parking on the streets. And then our officers are instructed to turn around and ticket them, so when they get back to their car, they got a nice big fat ticket from College Park at the same time. We got to start communicating and talking in terms of how we're going to do this thing. You can't welcome someone out with a pat on the back and then slap them on the wrist when you invited them out in the first place for a Saturday. So we just got to start. This stuff can work if we're communicating, but we, not department heads, are not talking to each other. All right, this is what it's looking like this weekend. How are we going to be doing this thing? So this is the type of stuff that it'll work if we're communicating. But departments always feel like they're in their own little kingdom, and that's not, I'll do it how I want to do it, and I'm not discussing it with anybody else. But it's all intertwining. So we just got to keep that in mind.
But Ms. Tyus, you've been here about 40 days now, is that right?
41.
41. Can you talk a little bit about how you've worked to structure the department so they are communicating better?
Absolutely. And so it's indicative of the way the teams are working. Everybody you see here today is working on a team. There's always some additional crossover between the agencies. My teams are meeting together. We have already, so the team here today, we've sat together, we've reviewed all of the goals and objectives for quality of life as a strategic goal. That is how we're functioning and operating. So I ask the council to continue to give us a chance to operate in this new fashion. It is a change for everybody. So just as I've asked the council to make some changes in how they communicate with us, I've also asked my team to make some changes in how they communicate with one another. And I want to say, to the credit of my team, how open and receptive they have been to operating in this manner. So give us an opportunity on day 41
Absolutely.
to do that.
And I know we're going through the, transitions. I know how that is. And I think it's going well, absolutely. But obviously, we're going to give you feedback when we're on the ground stuff that we're looking at happening. And, officers saying, well, that I was instructed, I got to ticket them all. So again, but it's not going to be perfect, obviously. That's why we talk about this stuff. We take a look at it. Everybody's out there doing their best job. The more we talk, it's going to be even better. So yeah. The line here, 5150, I'm assuming that increases uniform with the unfrozen positions, city, the pension contribution.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Okay.
I have one comment I want to make, and Councilman Carn, I'm going to disagree on one point. I understand what you're saying about communication. I totally endorse that. But if it's illegal and hazardous to the public to park in front of a fire hydrant, it's illegal to park in front of a hydrant whether there's a crowd or not a crowd. In fact, I might even argue it is more dangerous to be parked in front of a fire hydrant when there is a large crowd.
Well, I agree with you on that.
Congestion. So I'm just trying to say, maybe the communication with departments should be that we don't schedule so many events at the same time, and that could be handled largely within recreation. But we got a lot of people viewing the council meeting tonight, right? And I don't want to create a false impression that, well, it's okay to violate our traffic regulations if it's not convenient or if we have an abundance of activity going on. I would disagree on that. Maybe I'm the only one.
No,
Gentlemen,
you're right.
gentlemen, I know this is one of these issues that we could talk about all night, but we've really got to focus on the budget itself because we're here to talk about the budget. And I want to make sure are there any questions on page 1? Any additional questions on page 1?
Yeah, we're getting away from the budget.
Yep, we sure are. I had a question on line 51, 50, 40. It looks like we've got at least 2 employees that are taking that credit. Has one left? Are we anticipating?
Which line are you talking?
51, 50, 40. 515040. Because we've exceeded $2,400, so if we're anticipating there's going to be 2 people.
Yeah, that would have to be increased by $2,400.
Okay. Any other questions on page 1? All right, moving to page 2.
I got a question about 6170. Seems to be going up an awful lot. Contractual services.
So contractual services are our programs that are on a 75-25. So if they increase on making money, we pay them 70. So that number is estimated based on what they brought in from the last year. But with COVID picking up, programs going, there's more participants, so the revenue side is being brought in, but if that number goes up, we're bringing in more money. And then there was also more programs. We've added volleyball, so we've added some additional programs that we've not had in the past to also increase contractual.
Did that also increase the line above it, 6160? The instructor and official fee?
Correct. So prior to my stepping in, those youth sports accounts would handle those fees. So if somebody registered for a football, it would go through the youth sports account, and they would pay out for the, actually the city would only pay the official fees, and they would cover all the uniforms through the sports account. So we've taken on all of those costs that we have not done, and as those programs increase, the instructors, so we're talking about, basketball, officials, timers, football, so that was all handled just through the city, was the official fees prior, and now we're doing everything through, along with uniforms and everything else. So those two
But,
would be,
that's a good thing too. So.
yeah.
And the tournament fees, because
That's-
we're doing more, so it's going to go up.
Correct.
Okay.
And our programs are making it to state, which would be those travel fees and meals and hotels, and so yes, which is a good thing, but, yeah.
And the preschool kids, that's a lot of,
It's a good thing for our youth, but yes.
okay.
So those were good line items to point out, so yes.
Additional questions on page 2.
I had that same line item, 6170. Glad to see it's increasing and we can cover the programming. Now, I'm hearing that some of our kids can't participate in some of these that are being, that there's not capacity in terms of programming or monies. Basketball, for instance. So what's this I hear about some kids being turned away that may want to participate? Is this going to solve that?
So, based on budget, we would possibly have to limit based on what we have down for those programming.
Okay, well, I understand we're increasing some things, and that's a good thing. But since I've been up here, we have never turned away kids that want to participate. As far as I know, we have never turned away kids that want to participate. Whether mom or dad has the money right now, or they can't afford it, or if they can't afford it, we would always figure something out. We work with the parents and say, hey, if you can't afford it, hey, you could come up to one of the rec centers on the weekend and help do some cleanup with us, or participate and do some volunteering or whatever have you, and your kid could participate one way or another. So I don't want to see us, what do they say, robbing Peter to pay Paul, whatever have you. We're adding on programs, but we want to keep our core programs together. And I know we're going into with the cultural and everything, and the more we expand, I think the better off we're going to be. But at the end of the day, I just, let's keep in mind, Parks and Rec, at the end of the day, Public Works, it's all public safety. In my book, it's all public safety. I remember my dad grew up in Compton. He's a sports entertainment attorney out there. When they had their issues in the late 80s and 90s, they couldn't figure it out, and they kept upping the police budgets and budgets and budgets until they finally realized they tripled down on Parks and Recreation. They tripled down on Parks and Recreation. And a lot of that gang activity went away because they out-campaigned and out-promoted the gangs. So public safety, this is, your department is Parks and Rec, but from the governmental perspective, from my perspective, we fund this department to make sure that there's a lesser chance of all heck breaking loose in this city. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. So those core programs that we got, and I think you know what I'm talking about in terms of, that helps our police department and everybody else as well. So let's just keep that in the back of our heads. And I hope you know where I'm coming from, right? Okay, but let's make sure that those folks that really want to participate, that can't afford it, let's make sure we got some funds for that and we figure it out. So, because at the end of the day, that's the name of the game. So,
Any other questions on page 2? Hearing none, we'll move to page 3. It's a short one. Any questions on page 1 of 6 on the budget level? Page 2.
The 150,000 is awful high for the kids, but what do we?
I'm sorry,
spend that?
where are you, Councilman Allen?
2 of 6, isn't that what
Okay.
yours?
Oh, 150, oh, there we go.
Down at the
Kids
bottom.
gym. Is that what you're talking about, line?
Preschool kids, 150,000?
So that is based on their revenue that they bring in, and we pay them 75%. So that is, they've been here 35 years working with this. It's amazing.
No, I see a lot of them come when you have a gymnastic event and want to come in and,
Yeah. So that's
Participate
probably
was-
the longest standing program for a contract.
do we have just in general summer camp itself at all of the rec centers, like a summer camp type of a program?
For this summer, this will be the first summer since COVID that we've done a regular City of College Park day camp, summer camp.
Okay, so the regular day camp is the preschool gym, kids gym? Or
No.
it's another one?
The
on this list?
contractual are those programs that come in that are on a 75-25. Day camp is it is budgeted for those staff for that, yes.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
complete. Okay, so this summer, for instance, I want to put some flyers out in my community, and we're going to have a camp available at 2 of the 3 rec centers, 1 of the 3, or 3 of the 3?
At Wyatt and at Conley, yes, sir.
At Wyatt and at,
Yes,
okay. And there's a fee for that, I'm assuming, or?
correct. I
is it-
believe it's 110, or 120 for 2 weeks.
Okay, all right.
All right, any other questions on page 2? Page 3?
I have 2 questions.
All right.
Page 3 or 6, correct?
Yes, sir.
Special Services Program, janitorial, can you explain what that is?
So for after hours, we have rentals where somebody would come in and rent a facility. They have to, it's a $25 janitorial or staffing fee, and so I have to budget for that to pay out.
And the second question is soccer in the streets. I thought that was a much more successful program. You only showing $2,500 of revenue.
So their revenue, they're doing their registration, and we do an agreement with them on the facility use.
So they get to use the field for $2,500? That's the total cost to the city?
That's what oh yeah, they're doing maintenance for the fields for us and cutting the grass.
Who's cutting the grass?
Soccer in the street?
Soccer in the streets, yes.
So when you take out them mowing the grass, their total revenue to us is $2,500?
That's estimated. Again, that's a fairly new program, again, estimating on what we're looking for the year.
But, and I don't want to dwell on it, but last year I saw a very active program. If you compare it to some of your other programs, we get to 25%, right?
Not all programs are done that, either rentals or lease agreements. You know, there's different agreements that we do with those programs.
What do you mean by line programming? Or other programming, I'm sorry.
Line dancing, other programming, if we added something new to, we were looking at circus art, looking
Just
at some
another
different
program.
activities, acting, something that we would just put in for the budget line to make sure we would have something to pay for.
Any other questions on page 3?
I had a question back on page 2. I see Favor House, there's a line here for 5,000.
What line number, Joe?
526170.
They're alphabetical, so Favor House Track.
5260, F, Favor House Tracker here. Now, I recall we used to do a little more for that outfit, but I know how things have changed, and I know the climate and whatnot, and all of these situations and whatever have you, but I've been out to a few of these things since I've been back, and there's a lot going on out there with young people in our community, in particularly this outfit. I would like to see a little more going towards that because, a lot of times I see them doing this and cleaning up that track and doing stuff. We talk about public works. A lot of times they're grabbing shovels and taking care of stuff and making us really look good out there. I know years in the past, they would have some track events and tournaments in Middle Georgia and all over the place. And I remember a couple of times I saw them on ESPN nationally talking about College Park. I'd like to see a little more money go that way.
I have additional money set aside for them in recreational supplies of $5,000 on page 6 of 6.
I'm glad to see it, and I know gymnastics brings in a lot of revenue, and I'm glad that, obviously, and I see, and we got a lot of lines for that, and you want to accommodate that and take care of that. And we got the parents' night and a lot of good stuff here, and I don't expect everyone to get that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously, but I just want to make sure we look out for as many folks as we can with these programs, and support the ones that are off and running and going pretty well for us. So, yeah, I wanted to see more in that line.
Any other questions on page 3? Page 4. Page 5.
Ma'am, I have a question on page 3.
Page 3.
Is the baseball camp back?
What line? I'm sorry, where?
I think I saw baseball down on page 3 or 6 towards the bottom. I guess it just made me think, we used to have a baseball program. Are we having a baseball program?
We are. We have Fun Day out on this Saturday.
16th.
Yeah, it should be on your calendar too. So.
What is the karate, Master Ferguson? I know that's the local guy, right?
Correct.
How does that in terms of membership? Does that go pretty well, or
Well, during COVID, he stepped out, but he's
back?
yeah.
Okay. I mean, is 2,000 the normal amount? Is that?
Well, again, with COVID, everybody's coming back. It's just,
Okay.
again, estimated
So we
on
don't
what
know
they
what-
brought in this year to,
Okay. The Rockwall contractor, is that what I see at 30,000 for the total amount?
so those are the rock wall contractors that are working the wall that will.
Is there something wrong with the wall? I thought once it goes
No,
up.
no, they have to have somebody to be with them, an instructor, per se, for the,
Oh, okay.
So that's-
Well, and the rock wall is something that came when, I was away in the county. And I don't know, I mean, I guess that's a specialized thing, obviously, but I guess we wouldn't have some part-timers ourselves that we could train on that type of stuff.
that's what they are. Those are the part-time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but for a contract, they're on a contract basis.
But they're not staffed with us, or?
They are staffing us, but they're not,
Okay.
it was something that was added as contractors.
Okay, so they're there only for the rock wall only. Okay. So I guess what I'm saying is, in a sense, they're employees, but they're contract for the rock wall only. There are, let's say, I mean, you're adding a few more employees on, right?
For the rock wall.
No,
correct. We have
just in
currently-
general in Parks and Recreation.
Right.
So I'm just, give me some rope here. Let's say you bring some more folks on. Is it possible you could train them in this where they can handle that and we wouldn't have to contract it out? Is that, I mean?
Correct, because we had frozen positions too. So we'll get to that point
Okay.
that we will train the staff about.
And then at some point, we won't have to pay this.
If we've got somebody for dedicated, well, we want to do some day camps. We want to do some other things with the rock wall too. Travel teams, do a team for rock climbing.
Okay, all right. So you still need the money.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see maybe a transition where our folks are handling more, so, yeah.
I have a question on page 3 as well. Lifeguard training. We've outsourced the lifeguards this year, so why do we have to train them?
So this budget was done prior to the agreement made for the RFP for the lifeguards.
So that means we can take out $1,000? Okay.
That's a good point.
Any other questions on page 3? Page 4? Page 5.
Are we Gateway Arena Rental? So there's some programming we're having over there sometimes?
We would like to do some games out there and utilize the arena for our youth.
Okay, volleyball, basketball, what?
We're looking at basketball, trying to host
Basketball.
the championship games for our league.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, all right. I guess I'm looking at some of these lines here, just, I know a big component of what we're doing is volunteering, obviously this whole thing can't work without them. I would love annually just to see, where we are. Volunteerism is up 30% this year, or we're down. I'm assuming we were down because of COVID, because there wasn't a lot happening anyhow, but are we getting the same kind of support we used to get? Do we need more recruitment with that, or?
So we are actually doing our volunteers through HR, so we'll be able to track that better than just background checking and moving on. They're actually being hired like an employee.
Is that
So-
new? Is that's,
Correct, yes.
okay, all right. That sounds like
Post-
progress.
Posting the jobs on a regular basis.
Okay. One of the things I would also suggest, the summer programs, volunteer recruitment, all of these things, I don't see enough notice in apartment communities. And I understand things are online, and if you go onto the website and if you can find the Parks and Recreation tab, and if you can click that and you can go down far enough, you'll see some of the stuff we're talking about. But at the end of the day, a lot of folks just don't use computers like that, and when they want something for their kids to do, they'll go in that leasing office and they'll ask about something. And I always thought it'd be good. I probably put more paper in apartment complexes. There's a stack of something from Joe Carn in just about every complex about something. And like I understand we got an Easter egg hunt going on. I want to make sure that the kids in the apartments are aware of it, and their parents may not be checking online for it, and they may not know anything about it, and a lot of times they'll miss it. I know they do pretty good in the Housing Authority usually as well, but I just want to make sure, we got a lot of programs that miss the apartment community sometimes, which is probably, is where I'd like to see, a little more attention. So just, So I don't know if there's a line for extra flyers in the community, but I want to find some money for that because I want to see some stacks of paper in those apartments
The
when we
stationary
got stuff.
expenses actually did go up.
When we got stuff going on, so
Yeah, we
that's
normally
good to
deliver
hear.
to those school systems
Yep.
and get out. So,
Okay.
yes.
Any other questions on page 4? Page 5?
I think on page 5, some of the basketball uniforms and T-shirts and stuff, the Ant-Man makes a lot of money, so maybe he could do some donations, if y'all.
Page 6.
Oh, I got the same thing on 6 with the scoreboard. I see Coca-Cola out on all these youth sport, all of their scoreboards, and I didn't know if there's a chance to get Coca-Cola or somebody to help sponsor the, just a thought. Because I see them everywhere when you go past a youth field.
Well, one of the things I've noticed as well, Ken, I know on the track we used to have a lot of local sponsors that would, I'm assuming they'd be putting money into the Parks and Rec program, and we'd put their little signs out along the gate of the track. And I'm assuming they were paying us, as sponsorships, local dry cleaners, such and such in the different places. But I always think that's a good thing to see. And yeah, if we can find some advertising for the scoreboards and other stuff, whatever we can find, you got a few more staff folks coming, I want us to, and I talk about market in this city a whole lot more. I don't know, Mercedes, we always have talks about that, right? But that applies to other departments, let's see what else is out there. I see the other high schools and stuff, so let's make sure if there's something available, we get good crowds, and some of those folks would love to advertise, bring them out here and show them one weekend, what we got, and yeah.
All right. So we will move forward to recreation facilities.
Page 6,
Go ahead, Councilman Clay, sorry.
it's a very small amount, but why are we adding a data drop for computers at Wyatt? I would think the computer room had been equipped long ago with all the drops we need.
From my understanding, it was needed based on discussions with Mr. Hicks.
I'm sorry?
It was needed because of the different rooms. It needed to be data dropped.
They've added another room?
No, just there wasn't enough for what was being used out there.
Not enough drops in the room they were using?
Correct.
Wow. Well, that's probably a good sign that we're getting more computers at Wyatt.
We're working on that. Working on that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move to recreation facilities. questions on page 1? We've got an employee utility credit question, line 51, 50, 40. Looks like we only have one person who's qualifying for the credit. We've got 2 that are budgeted. So is that, I know we, in an earlier part of rec, we had 2 people when we should have had 1. It looks like we've got 2, it looks like the reverse here. Okay. Other questions on page 1?
52, 5280, other communications, 54,000, and what is that? It's been consistent every year except for 22. 54,000.
Yes, see, I don't have a breakdown for it, so I don't.
While Ms. Fuller Bradley's looking that up, any other questions on that page?
Yes, 52, 5780.
I had that one too.
Can you explain what grounds involved in this $80,000?
So, hang on just a second. 5780, didn't make my note on that one. Contract field for the chemicals, ground repair for fence, mulch for playgrounds, which is a yearly breakdown, some sod replacement, and then topsoil for maintenance on the fields.
Okay.
But it's not 80,000, it's 52,000.
It's 52, but what was in there that we took out was Wi-Fi for the parks. We had an additional, and then, Wi-Fi for the parks, and there was one other thing.
Oh, the grounds, you took out Wi-Fi for the parks.
So is that why it went so high this year?
That's why it was so high.
So is it 85?
Roderick.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Wi-Fi for the parks, and there was one other item. If you give me a second, I can tell you what that other item was. I might wrote a note, but I can't.
So it's 5280 Wi-Fi? Can that be Wi-Fi?
Well, it was $20,000 for the Wi-Fi's for the park.
Okay.
And then, give me just a second, I'm sorry. Let me look at my facilities for 5780. This one doesn't have it in here. There was one other item that we cut. I'll have to,
Yeah, you won't find it, but the breakdown just reflects what you've got in there
Yeah.
now. It doesn't reflect what you had in there before.
Okay, so
But the Wi-Fi would be a big chunk of that.
yeah.
And I for one, I'd like to see Wi-Fi in the parks.
Yeah, so would I.
You
but-
know, I mean, we're doing this turnaround, and I mean, to me, you know, I know we got to save money, and we got to watch our pennies, but you know, some of this stuff pays big dividends. You know, we're a great city. We got great city parks. We invested a lot of money into those. I remember when we did the big expansions of the parks, and it was a big deal. But in 2022, you go to a park, if there's not Wi-Fi, you know, we got people coming to visit. We're trying to develop 6 West, where we're going to have maybe 400 units of housing, hopefully mostly owner-occupied. You got 300 houses coming out of the ground off of Camp Creek, from $350,000 to $400,000. If you're buying in this community, you're looking at, you going to the park and you can't get Wi-Fi, some people are going to say, well, you know, I mean, I think it's worth, I'd like to see Wi-Fi in the parks.
We're gonna launch.
But that's just me. I mean, I think that's something that's going to pay dividends for us.
I'd
Ms.
like
Johnson,
to,
wait, hold
I'd
on.
like
Ms.
to
Johnson
see
had
it as-
something to respond. Like, did you,
We're looking at a demo for that to come to us. I think it's in May.
Mr. Hicks, can
We're
you shed
looking
some
at a-
light? Just want to make sure everyone can hear you who's not in the room.
Good evening, everyone. Michelle and I have been working together with this one particular company to give us a demo. And we looked at several parts where we want to put up the demo, and we just want to do Wi-Fi first. We don't want to do the AI portion, just the Wi-Fi first, so we can see how many people are connecting, so we can bring that data back and give it to you all. So I think it was taken out of our budget, but if that's going to be put back in.
What is AI?
Artificial
For
intelligence.
those who don't know.
Right, well, we can read license plates, we can count how many people are there, those kind of things.
Well,
We're just doing phase one now, and that is just looking at a pilot, just so we can see how many folks are gonna be connected to the Wi-Fi.
What would Wi-Fi cost without the bells and whistles, without the AI? I mean, we got tag readers, we got flock cameras all over the place, 26 of them.
About 20K.
I'd like to find the money and put it back in there if we can. I mean, if we got a pocket of contingency somewhere or something, Ms. Tyus, if we could find it, let's see if we can find it.
And Ms. Tyus, that was not
But
citywide.
that's just me, again,
That's not citywide, by the way.
Well, I guess
couldn't
just
be
the major,
citywide.
the four, Zup Park, Barrett, and Phillips Park, and that's it, right? The three. At least
What
those.
did the $20,000 cover? What did the Wi-Fi cover?
Well, what Michelle and I were doing was looking at our most dense park, how many people come to the biggest park that we have, and we were looking at Phillips Park.
But but in looking at line 52, 57, 80, this year thus far, $85,000, almost $86,000 has been spent, and that encompasses Wi-Fi in the parks. Is that correct?
No, she haven't spent any money for Wi-Fi in the parks yet, none.
Well,
So
I don't understand.
the almost $86,000 that's been spent year to date, it does not encompass Wi-Fi?
No?
Oh, okay. So
So we were looking at the demo.
so why did the grounds budget go so far over
For this year?
for this year?
Because we had no programming prior. Now we're upkeeping the fields
I see.
for those programs. Even with the expense with the pool, we may not have the pool going, but you still have to upkeep in order to keep the grounds going.
Sure. Okay.
I've got a question for, well, I guess for Michael, but that's okay, stay back there, just hold on. The expensive thing is not the Wi-Fi units, it's the backhaul. So how are you planning to do backhaul from the parks? You'd have to have high-speed internet connection to the parks to aggregate all the signals that are coming in over the Wi-Fi.
So,
Sure, you're absolutely right. So the pilot included bandwidth. The company's gonna provide bandwidth, they're gonna provide the devices, they're gonna provide that whole package.
Okay, that's a pilot, but that's a pilot. That's not, after you've said, yeah, we love the pilot, how much does it cost?
That's
How
right.
much does that backbone cost? And how are they providing that backbone? We don't have the fiber or the coax or the microwave to the parks to
Right.
provide the backhaul.
Well, it's certainly not gonna be via fiber, it's gonna be Wi-Fi. They're gonna put up their own devices, Wi-Fi all the way back to their carrier.
Well, that says they're gonna microwave all the way back to,
It's not gonna be microwave,
it's cellular?
cellular. It's not gonna be microwave.
I think we better take a pretty close look at that pig in the poke.
Well, I'd like to take a closer look at it. My only interest would be in terms of a pilot would be just the three main parks, not like Badger Stadium or where more visitors would come, more of the more solid residential, the Zup, Phillips, and Barrett. I keep getting your part mixed up.
That's
I was
okay.
going to call it Clay Park.
It's the backbone that's gonna kill you.
Well, can we look at a realistic
Sure.
cost for just
I
those
mean-
three to see what
folks,
that would
listen.
be?
But is the pilot baked in here? Is that included in your numbers?
The pilot is free. We were anticipating after the end to go with what the cost was to have in the parks, the Wi-Fi for anybody going into any of our parks.
And we don't know that yet. Do we know that number?
No, they gave us a quote,
Okay.
but, again, that was, to try out the package, see if we liked it, see what options we wanted, if we wanted license readers, if we wanted, people, air quality. They offer all these things for us to try, and we were going to put in the budget
Oh.
to Wi-Fi the parks.
Can you just go back and find out what the basic Wi-Fi, no frills, that works,
That is,
just for the three?
that is the cost that I took out. That was
Only
taken
for the
out.
three parks?
For the 3 parks, correct.
Okay, so you're talking, so Comcast must be the provider.
They didn't say. They didn't say who their carrier is gonna be.
Well,
They didn't say.
Michael, the only
You've got
people that
Comcast,
have
you've got
backhaul
Windstream,
cable.
you got AT&T, all of those guys are carriers.
I know, but, okay, you must be tapping into one of them then.
I'm sure, yes. But again, we stopped the pilot, we stopped the conversation about the pilot when I think Michelle said that's gonna be cut out of my budget. I told Michelle, we shouldn't even move forward in talking with these people if we're not gonna be able to afford
Right.
it.
Amen. But, I'm with Joe for $36,000. If you could put it in 3 parks,
I thought it was 20.
It's 20.
20?
If it costs 30, let's try it.
Okay.
I just think that's money well spent. If it works, and people come and they say, hey, I can see myself living here, if they say, oh, I come to the parks, I can't even use my laptop.
Okay. And I'll get the backhaul question answered. I'll get it answered.
oh, it's a no-brainer if it's Comcast or AT&T, because they've already got the cable there. It's just a matter of repeating it.
Right.
That's the only way that they can feasibly do it for that price. Okay.
So if it is the will of the council, we will put a placeholder in for the 20, and then we'll update it at the point where we get the real estimate.
Okay.
All right, other questions on page 1?
I got a little question. Doesn't amount to much money, but the dental insurance went way up for this group, and it's gone up some for the other groups, but this one, it's, what did you say, 374%? That just seems awful high for one group. I mean, it's not much money, and y'all can just take a look at it. There's no,
We'll take a look at it.
Ms. Fleur Bradley?
Yes, that
Sorry.
shows, that's correct. Everyone is insured, and we had some vacancies as well,
Yes.
and
We had-
frozen positions.
Correct.
But, that's accurate.
Ms. Fleur Bradley, were you able to dig a little deeper on line 52, 5280?
I will have to get back with you on that because that's an auto clearing account, meaning that the customer service department generates that auto clearing, and it's associated with utility services. Which one, I'm not sure. I have to look into that a little deeper.
Okay.
Thanks.
Other questions on page 1?
I have one final question. So I don't see any budget for playground equipment for Phillips Park. As you know, there's not been any park replacement, and since I lived here, that's since 1998.
No, we had a line item for playground. I think it was 13,000.
13,000 can't
Just-
even buy a swing.
Not, pardon?
You said 13,000?
There is a line item for playground replacement equipment.
But there's 300,000 to replace the roof at the Wyatt Center.
So that,
Doesn't make sense.
so a grant, I'm applying for grants for the parks, to get the parks. That's my goal, to get all the parks done through the grant.
So,
process.
so when we read these budgets, do we look at grants as an accrual? Or we don't put grants in these?
No.
We don't?
No, if we haven't been approved for the grant, we do not budget for those grants.
Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I will continue.
I got it.
Yeah.
Didn't know.
I want 500.
Page
cou-
one, questions.
Couple other questions. Where was I at?
On page
Oh,
one.
the splash pad situation. So is the money still budgeted for that? Is that thing gonna get done this century or?
I'm gonna put my bathing suit on when that thing
Okay,
is done.
I'm asking because, you know, I fought as a commissioner to make sure y'all got that extra in there, and we want to, I know you got the check, so I just want to make sure we do that. The other thing in terms of buildings, we have probably got one of the best fitness room deals in all of Metro Atlanta. I have never, are we still, is it still $75? What is it?
75 and 50 for a senior.
$75 for the whole year, and that's Connolly or
Wyatt, you can.
Wyatt, right? You know, that's the kind of stuff, when I say that extra paper and flyers and information, there are a lot of folks that live in my apartment communities that go to the Planet Fitness or LA Fitness on Old National stuff, and they're paying tons of money, but they don't even know what we have, you know, and it's, again, we got to communicate that out. We got public information, but this is one of the things that be a big help in some of the communities that want to get out and get some exercise for reasonable prices. You know, I've been talking about health since I've been up here. You know, that's a biggie, and we got that facility, and a lot of folks know about it, but it's a whole lot of folks that have no idea. And you got to keep something in mind, you know, getting the word out, and particularly in our apartment communities. And I don't lean on that so much because I have a lot of apartments, but this city is 75% apartments, 75% rental. And the turnover, every 3 or 4 months, you got new people coming in here. So the people that knew about it are gone, and the new people don't know about it. So, you know, I just want to just keep stressing that. But they see a deal like that, you know, folks that start coming in there and utilizing the stuff. So just something else that I just see, just underutilized resources. So.
Other questions on page one? Hearing none, moving to page two.
Page 2, 526070.
Ah, you got my question.
Swimming pool supplies and service. We've spent 27,000 to date. The budget was 45. We're using 61%, and you were going to jump it to 98,000, and the city manager recommended 67, and if you just linearized it, it would be 36 based on what we've spent so far.
So we are adding the splash pad, more chemicals. There will be. You know,
But, okay, I'll even buy that. So how many swimming pools do we have now that we put supplies on?
Well, they call it 3. You know, Conley has the
As what?
Conley has the splash pad with the pool. They consider that 2 pools, even though it's a splash pad, a little small water feature there. And then we have Wyatt. So those are the 3 pools, plus we're adding the splash pad.
So you're adding,
Oh, 2, I'm sorry, 2 at each location. They consider those little water splash features another pool. So that would be 5 in total for filling.
okay, so you're adding 1/5 capacity, and you're jumping the price to 60. You were going to jump it to 98. So why did it go down from 98 to 67?
We were asked to go ahead and make cuts in the budget, so that was taken out. But generally speaking, during the summer, when you have more people in the pool swimming, you use more and more chlorine to keep the water at the safe level. So this past year, we didn't have anybody in the pool swimming, but we still use chlorine as a limited amount to keep the water circulating and for the plaster and everything else inside the pool.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So, but why did we reduce, so the fact that we reduced it from, you're anticipating enough people with these 5 places that you could justify $98,000, but you've cut it to 67. How can you do that and not run over budget?
Well, there was furniture and fixtures budgeted into that as well.
Pardon?
There was furniture included in that?
Yeah.
Furniture, it's just not chemicals. There were other items included in that overall total.
It said supplies, so I assumed it was,
I think there was 30,000
I don't
that
think of
they did
furniture
furniture.
as supplies, I guess.
Yeah, so there was additional 30,000, I think is what we had for fixtures and, supply,
For what?
Wanted to make it
furnitures.
fancy.
Yes, trying to add loungers and do some different things for the pools.
Okay, so you cut those out.
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions on page 2?
I do. If anyone don't have anything before the last line item, 527920, requested 600,000, recommended 340. What is that?
So we originally were looking at possibly a restroom for Barrett Park,
For Phillips Park?
for Barrett Park. And again, we were going to look at grant for that.
So we're gonna spend 340,000?
So, and that is the roof at Wyatt. We're past the 15 years and we're having constant leaks and issues with that roof at Wyatt. So that's for the roof.
So you're saying it's not the restrooms that's in there?
Correct.
It's just the roof at Wyatt?
Just the roof.
Right.
That's an unbelievable amount of money for a roof.
Oh, I'm sorry too.
It's
And the
awfully
40,000
early,
for the
too.
concrete
Vehicle?
pad, yeah.
Oh, the concrete
For
pad.
the mini pitch at
I don't
Zup
understand
Park.
it either, Joe.
That-
So it's
I mean,
300 for the roof and 40,000 for the concrete pad for the mini pitch that we agreed to put in the budget for that
Is there a
donation.
mini pitch? What is that?
The little soccer, the mini soccer field.
Over at
I
Zup
mean,
Park.
But we're
Yeah.
gonna bid out the roof, right? And maybe we can find, it may be a better price. I mean, you guys pad that,
Well,
of course, just in case.
well,
you know.
300. I think we were at 250 3 years ago when we tried to do it before COVID.
So, I mean, this is just roof repair and patching. This isn't a brand
No,
new
it's
roof
a
stripping the whole
completely
roof
new
off?
roof.
Whole new roof.
Is
Joe.
that far gone?
Well, it was built while I was still on council, when I was on council.
It doesn't
It's
seem
all
like it
nothing.
was that long.
Time flies.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about that.
Additional questions on page 2? Page 3 is just totals. Any questions on that page? We'll move on to the budget level. Questions on the budget level. We'll start on page 1. Moving to page 2. Moving to page 3. All right. Here.
Just one question, I guess. I know we spend a lot of money with AT&T and Windstream. They used to be together, right? I don't know why I thought Windstream was connected with AT&T at one point or another, but you know, I always wonder. I say to myself, well, you know, we spend a lot of money with these outfits and organizations, and you know, I'm sure they do stuff in other communities and stuff. And I just wonder, have we ever considered, you know, asking them about stuff, sponsorships or different stuff that they may do in other communities? And it might just be, you know, we've never asked. You know, I mean, we do a lot of business with these outfits. You know, it doesn't cost anything to ask. You know, I know they do it in other communities, but we may have never asked them. So just you know, I just want us to be cognizant of the different opportunities that we spend a lot of money, and it doesn't cost anything to ask. you know, maybe they can help sponsor something, or, you know, if we want to put something on or put something together, just, you know, when I said you know, coming back, I look at things a little differently, I guess, than I used to when I see different stuff, different things and opportunities. It's because I see a lot of other cities getting things that we don't get generally, but it might just be as simple as we don't ask. So, city manager, keep that in mind, you know. Yeah, all right.
All right, moving on to engineering. Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Lance.
Jackson, last meeting, it was the Jackson Myers show, pretty much.
We've lost a quorum here, so need to pause for a moment. But we regained it. Questions for Mr. Myers on page 1?
I just have a question on the actual amount on the city pension contribution was only $9,000?
I think we're missing folks in the department.
Huh?
I think we're missing folks in the department. Line 515150.
$9,000. The pension contribution was just very, very small because the people were gone?
Oh, yes, you're referring to actual. That is correct. There's only one person, one individual in the department right now, and that's Jackson.
Well, let's move down to 5210, where it talks about position consideration. What position is that you're looking at?
Well, first we're looking for,
It was a planner. That was one of the cuts we made during that presentation, the planner position he requested.
Yeah, and then it didn't.
Make the cut.
Didn't make the
It's okay.
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead, Ken, I'm sorry.
Councilman Allen, any other questions
No.
on that
That's
page?
the only question I had there.
Councilman Carn?
Okay, so there are 4 positions in this chart, right? And so we got 3 positions to fill. Is that right, city manager? No. Okay, because they said.
Yes, sir.
GIS has been filled, right? Right.
I'm sorry. Okay, GIS is done. So we got two positions that need to be filled. Okay, all right.
I have a question on 5010. Sorry, I stepped out for a second. The total amount salary recommended, 275,000. Is that for the 2 positions that need to be filled?
That's for all 4.
That's all 4?
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Myers, where's your position? But you special projects? Are you not on the org chart?
He's the Director of Infrastructure and Development.
He's the who?
The Director of Infrastructure and Development.
Oh, that's you. So the project engineer, okay, make sure I understand this. The project engineer will answer to the Director of Infrastructure, is that correct?
correct.
Is that new? That ain't always been like that, right?
We've always had a engineer, we've had a project engineer for,
No, I understand, but I never saw, well, it doesn't matter. I just, I don't know, I just don't.
Is that the city engineer? Is that what's here, Ms. Tyus? Or is that another engineer? So the city engineer is no longer a department head?
That's the way I should have said it.
Is that,
That's what I'm trying to say.
did we change that? So that's no, city engineer is no longer department head, is that what we're saying? Okay. I'm assuming y'all changed that before I got back here, I guess, right?
Yes. That was changed, I believe,
Is that that's what y'all did?
under Ms. Miller, I believe.
Okay, they're saying no, but All right, well,
I believe Ms. Miller made that decision.
I would like to, not tonight, but I would like to see where we made that change. I don't recall that change. I just know that we haven't had an engineer. It's nothing wrong with it, but I just wanted to look at those lines of.
well, if there's a good reason, then I'd like to hear the reason, but one thing I do know, we need a city engineer. I've been saying that just about at every meeting, so. And there's enough money in here, we increased it enough to get a decent, get somebody.
The engineering position exists and we have posted it and we're recruiting for it as well.
I'm saying,
The
but,
only question
but,
is where it reports.
I need to clarify it's not important who they report to.
Okay.
What I said wrong is that was a director's position. An engineer was a director. Has always been since I've been here for 8 years.
but, and also, understand we're posting it, good, I'm glad we're doing it. Did we up the amount, the salary range, so we can actually get somebody worth the salt here? I understand, but when we post it in a low range, the quality of candidates that we get can be suspect, you know what I mean? I guess what I'm asking is, I know we said we're gonna put some more money in these, and this was probably part of the study, and I'm hoping it upped the range. Okay. Okay. Okay, so it's high enough to get some quality. Oh, Lord.
I
Okay.
think
Well, did we change the range from what it used to be before we decided to do the bump from 2 weeks ago, or whatever it is?
I don't know if we changed it before that, but it has been changed.
Okay, all right.
I want to make sure that we come back at another point and look at this director position. And why that's important is because we've had 2 engineers that left. And I just want to make sure that they don't think they're directors. You know, that I just want us to have that conversation later.
Any other questions on page 1? Hearing.
See a little bump in health insurance, but that's in anticipation of the new positions, I'm assuming? Is that, okay.
There is no.
Well, I mean, the fact it hadn't been,
They probably all of these accounts have gone up everywhere
okay,
and all of the others.
all right.
Councilman Clay, any questions on page 1?
And which page are we on?
We are on, it's 71 of 285. We're into engineering.
We're in engineering,
Yes, sir.
page 103. The
Yes.
only question I had was the salary and whether this salary allows for a sufficient to retain the GIS coordinator.
As of this time, yes.
All right, any other questions on page 1? Moving on to page 2.
I got a question on page 2. It talks about engineering services, 526150, and you had requested 20,000, and then you had the city manager 40,000. But if you go back to the specifics, it only has one person at 20,000. So is that 20,000 or is that 40,000?
Engineering services is everything that I divided them up so that we can, because a lot of times, in order for us to get various grants, we have to have, being able to get, NEPA. And NEPA is environmental.
I think that's his question, though, is
Okay.
just,
Is it
is
40,000
it
or
40,000 or
20,000?
20,000?
Yeah, that's,
40,000 is what they got here.
what is it?
It's 40,000.
It's 40.
It's 40, so that essentially it should be a count of 2
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
okay, so
All right.
that's my, okay. So if it's a count of two, that'll take it to 40,000, okay.
I've got the first two lines, no training, no dues. Is that going somewhere else? I mean, it's hard to believe that there wouldn't be any training or any dues that anyone in the department would need to pay or experience any training.
Well, right now, we didn't have anybody that needed any training. I guess it would be next year, but I see that we got zeroed out.
I mean, but we're anticipating that we would be fully staffed at some point in fiscal '23, so I would anticipate that someone would need training or be a member of a professional organization.
Well, that's correct, but
We'll revisit that.
Okay.
We'll add a plug in there.
Yeah, I think they would have to have training.
Yeah. Other questions on page 2?
Yeah, a couple.
That's fair.
Let's see. 54,1,400. I see that somebody did anticipate $1 million of infrastructure, but didn't get it. What was that all about?
What
well,
line item?
as you know, we were, was looking at, covering our, portion for our grants.
We did a bond.
Okay, so these are the grant, which ones? Is this the Tiger grants, or was that?
The Tiger grant,
Okay, all right, and the capital improvement fund?
yeah, was part of that.
Okay, so,
It was all, both those were part of that.
so that's eliminated because of the loan, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Other questions on page 2? Hearing none, we'll move to page 3, and that's just totals. Any questions there? Hearing none, we'll move down to the budget level, page 1.
What is 6110? What is the Apex Library? What is that?
Policy, that's our insurance, liability
Liability.
insurance.
Oh, I'm sorry. See, y'all, I gotta get. I've been resisting my glasses. Y'all don't know I got some, but I've been fighting my wife about wearing them. All right.
Any
Well,
other
that
questions on
explains
page 1? Moving to page 2. Hearing no questions, we'll go ahead and move forward.
I have a question for the city manager. Does zoning and planning, are they not in this budget process anywhere? Zoning?
Yes. Well, planning is. Planning is.
I mean, I didn't see anything in the numbers related to a collaborative firm.
I'm sorry, you
Planning
didn't
and
see it?
zoning.
So planning is included in the budget when we get to probably admin.
So they used to be spread out over
I
several
mean, do
budgets.
we pay them, you know, like in recreation, how she had a breakdown of the providers, a percentage? Do any revenue we pay the collaborative firm, is it in this budget, their fee?
So the fees that we pay for planning is in this budget when we get to the executive budget.
It's on the
So
executive.
when we get to probably one of the last briefings, you'll see it in my budget.
And what about airport affairs?
That, you'll see that, same thing.
Did it used to be in engineering,
It's-
never been?
So in strategic goal number 5 is governance. So under strategic goal number 5, you will see planning, airport, along with the other operational units.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the next area is T-SPLOST. Any questions on T-SPLOST?
No.
Hearing none, we'll move to SPLOST. Any questions on SPLOST?
No.
Jackson when I grow up.
And now we move to Public Works Admin.
Yeah, I have a question on that.
All right, is it page 1?
Oh,
Give her 1 second, give her a second.
Okay, all right. Good evening, Ms. Zakaria. How are you?
Melissa was looking for some Jackson treatment on this one.
Not gonna happen.
So,
Uh-oh.
Public Works Administration, page 1. Questions?
yes, 5010, operating salary. How are we spreading the director's salary this year? And in the past, I think we've split it across each of the enterprise funds and the overhead fund, the administration fund.
Yes, that's correct. 25% goes, is charged to stormwater, sanitation, and I believe water and sewer. So it's spread across those 3 funds, 25% apiece.
Okay, that, I just wanted to verify we were still doing it. the
Yes,
same
sir.
way.
The
Thank you.
stormwater, and what was the other one?
Sanitation
Okay.
and water and sewer.
Other questions on page 1?
Yeah, I had one on advertising expense, I guess. But
That cost
it's
was in there.
jumped significantly. Are we expecting to do a lot more advertising?
Yes, I don't know if you can hear me too good. You know, in August of last year, we received a notice of violation from Georgia EPD, and in that was the lack of advertising. So meaning when we have any major spills to the creek or illicit discharge, we're supposed to place an advertisement in the paper.
Good, good. Glad we're getting on top of that whole process.
Councilman Gay?
Contractual services
That was
for
my question, too.
7,200.
It's, you're outsourcing cleaning buildings 1 and 2, I believe.
Yes, for Public Works, reason being, we have, our animal control officer has been cleaning both of our buildings, and I don't think that's right. So we have a company coming in now who gave us a reasonable quote, and that's what the cost is for that, is maintaining both Public Works buildings.
Okay.
Well, question. Who normally cleaned your buildings before the animal control guy started cleaning the
He
buildings?
told me he's been doing it for 10 years.
Really?
Yes,
The animal control
yes, I need
has
to-
been cleaning the buildings?
Yes,
Well, who's supposed to clean them?
you should have a
And
cleaning
outside of
agenda.
finding a contractor, don't we
Yes.
have folks? Did anybody ever clean that building?
The animal control.
Has somebody been here before? I mean, is Public Works here? Or y'all know of anybody that,
It's been,
did we ever have that?
nope, I talked to him when I first got here, so that, again, I came last year, and when I noticed what he was doing, I brought it to Mercedes' attention, and I told her what I needed to do. So we have someone currently cleaning it now, and this is the annual cost for that company to continue to clean. It's a local company within the city, and it's under the threshold, so.
It's really reasonable. I mean, for $7,200.
So that means that animal control is actually out on the street controlling animals?
Correct, that's why we have this here, but he hasn't been since August of last year. So this is what the
Okay.
funds that I need to support, cleaning both facilities.
Okay.
Does he have a line item in here for his other services? And so what is, I see highway and street building, is animal control one of the,
Well,
budget
animal
items?
control is in sanitation department.
okay, I'll talk about it when we get there.
Other questions on page 1?
Glad
Page-
it's getting clean.
Page 2 of Public Works Administration. Nothing too. Moving to the budget level. Any questions on either page in that one?
Nope. So this whole thing, this is just one salary here, right? In this budget?
It's 2
It's
and a quarter.
2,
I mean,
but-
1 and a quarter.
1 and a quarter.
No, it's 2
Oh,
positions.
2.
I see $40,000 thereabout. That's 2 positions?
That, yes, there's 2 positions, but they're, the cost, 75% of the cost is allocated out through other enterprise funds.
Okay, gotcha, all right.
All right, moving on to highways and streets. Questions on page 1?
Yes, I've got page 1, line 52, 57, 51. We are happily enjoying the second wave of speed humps. And I am getting requests for more speed humps. Are we planning at all to build into the budget anything for another wave of speed humps?
Well, we have some funds available, and
Well, I know you've got funds elsewhere that you can take. I mean,
but it wouldn't be major, because I know the cost of the 18 that we're doing, we don't have that much allocated for that many more, but we probably can add a few.
yeah, I think it's costing, what, about $50,000 for the 18?
Almost, yes. So we can probably do a few built into this budget, but anything substantial, hopefully, maybe if there is some T-SPLOST money available, we could do some additional.
Well, I don't know where the rest of you guys are, but I've been getting requests of, oh, I saw the speed hump go in, and when am I going to get mine, or when can I get mine? And they are effective. I had my doubts, and that's why I got one not too far from me so I could keep an eye on it, and it works. It slows people down, and you don't get the excess noise that I was anticipating could be a problem. We get some, but it's not bad. So I think you're going to see a wave of requests for more speed humps, and I think we ought to consider putting it in the budget.
And you mentioned the end of this month is when they're gonna start coming in, right?
No, we've already started.
They've already started?
Yes, we've started.
Oh, great,
You
great.
still need to fill in some gaps.
We're working on that too. We've got several environmental regulatory reports coming up due, and the deadline for that is April the 30th. So we're working on our EPD reports to free up our time.
Obviously,
let's
you
We're
got-
working those in, the speed bumps, so that people see that we are working.
yeah,
toward it.
it's fill-in work at this point. You're
So,
saying.
so we put in some extra contingency, because we're gonna need a few more at some point?
I'm telling you,
But
you're
we
going to
used
get.
T-SPLOST money for that before. Can we,
Well, we're doing the budget here, and it's springtime, and once, like he said, people start getting them, they're gonna say, well, where's mine? So, let's put a little in,
I've got a backlog probably about, I would guess right now, from people that had asked me before and haven't gotten any, plus some recent requests. I've got probably 4 or 5 that I could put more in Ward 1.
What I'm gonna ask is that we make that a note, and let us figure out where we can get it from and not add it here
sounds
in the
good.
general
Okay.
budget.
Okay.
Good idea.
additional questions on page 1?
First line, salary operating, and I'll just say this, Melissa, you'll get the Jackson Myers treatment from me, absolutely. Whatever that is. I was glad that, we looked at giving the raise to Public Works, the $3. I'd like to see $4, and there's a couple of reasons why. We've talked about the work that they do out in the community, but this year in particular, rents are going up in all of our rental communities. People are looking for housing, and there's a backlog, and there are bidding wars and all this type of stuff going on in terms of owner-occupied. I just think if we're paying our staff that make a little less income than some of our other staff, those folks, I don't know if we set a bar $40,000 and under, again, that dollar means a whole heck of a lot more to them in terms of mitigating inflation and whatever have you than some of our staff that earn a little more money. And I think we're doing good by our staff, but I don't know, I want to see our city as clean as possible. I want to see, and particularly when people come in for the weekends looking to see if they want to rent here, a lot of folks don't come in during the week where staff is working regularly and there's a few less workers on the weekends. And that's when, in my opinion, the city needs to look the cleanest, because the folks that are working Monday through Friday 9 to 5 don't get a chance to look to see if they want to live here until the weekend, which is the more likely time that things don't look as good. I mean, by nature. And I don't, I'm not saying $1 will fix that, but I just think it'd go a long way. I think they deserve more, and I'll just leave it at that. And if there's interest in that, if there's a way to do that, I'd like to see it. I don't know how much more that would impact the budget, but
Councilmember, they were positively impacted by the addition.
well, I know it'll impact the budget, of course. But
No. I'm saying to
sorry.
you that in addition to the 3, they were positively impacted by what we did to adjust everybody else, so.
So do you think that puts them up to 4 on average? Yes. Who said that? Yes.
The finance person, I told
Yes.
you, we took care of that.
Okay. So they're $4 higher.
Yes, next year, starting July 1st, they'll have that additional.
All right.
I have a question. Does litter fall on the highway and streets?
I'm sorry?
Litter control.
Yes, some components, yes. So they do litter control.
Well, we need to, I recommend that we increase whatever budget line item it is, because it's certainly not working right now. We are not able to maintain litter. In fact, I was actually riding behind one of your vehicles today. So what line item is litter, people to pick up litter?
But it's built into building and grounds, and Sparky said we were on highways and streets.
We are on highways and streets.
Yeah, I know that, but
So
when I-
can we hold off on, if it's in buildings and grounds, can we hold off on that conversation?
I absolutely will, but since I've worked here, I've called both departments, so you said litter is not handled by highway and streets?
Not by highways and
Okay.
streets, no.
Then my second question is signs. Is there a budget item to make sure that we adequately have signs?
Yes.
And what line item is that? Street signs. And
That's 537091 on page 2, road signs and delineators.
53,791. Recommended.
Yes.
So did the decrease, is that okay with us? It decreased by 5,000 from what you asked for?
I feel it's manageable,
It's manageable?
yes.
Because we have a lot of tractor trailers encroaching and we need signs. And my other question is, I'll wait, I see it on the Stonewall, that's all I have.
All right, other questions on page 1? I had questions on lines 51, 50, 20, 51, 50, 80, and 53, 56, 80. It was the same question, which is, are those numbers realistic given what we spent this year?
Say the first number again, I'm sorry.
It's overtime salary, because we're already at 100%.
Well, we know this year we had the tentative snow ice storm, and we had to prepare for that. And then we definitely had a couple of strong wind storms that came through, and we had a couple of incidences where we had to procure our highways and streets division. They cut up a tree, and then we had an overturned vehicle. So usually when we have something like that that's interfering with city's operations or streets, we would clear if needed, and then we bill back the services to the company through the insurance. So we're called upon in times of need during the middle of the night.
Okay. And uniforms, looks like we're spending pretty briskly on that, and so it went down to 4,500. So is that a realistic number, given what we spent on uniforms this year?
Well, I think we just met with Moody and Centos, so I think that's a manageable number too, because the price should be decreasing for us.
Okay. And then tires. Looks like we spent a lot on tires. So, but we're gonna get close to, I mean, we're already pretty close to hitting the
I
years.
think if we replace the ones that we did last year with this one, I think we should be good with the, I think we should be okay with that number.
And the streets as well, y'all had recommended 297, and it was put down to 143. Is that a manageable?
I was gonna ask that.
Yes, I'm always gonna reach higher, but
What-
sometimes I have to be brought down to reality, and so that we can work with that number.
What was that request about 297?
Street maintenance.
Can you
I'm sorry, what?
elaborate what that
What
involves?
street, what, I didn't hear, what,
Street maintenance is what she said.
oh, just street maintenance.
Can you elaborate what street maintenance
All
involves?
right, so we have, street roadway repair and maintenance, and then in that, we also have, the LMIG funds, 20% match. And then we also, in that line item, have the winter bulk salt numbers for 7,000. So we have 3 items being pulled out of that street account. So we put in the built-in match for the LMIG funds.
Okay.
So we're good on that for resurfacing further.
Okay.
Any
I'd
other
like
questions
to
on page one?
piggyback,
Oh, I'm
Mayor,
sorry.
I'd like to piggyback on that last answer. Now that we put in all these wonderful street humps, and we're going to put in more, when it comes time for snow plowing, it is going to introduce a whole new strategy, and you are going to have additional repairs, because sooner or later, somebody is probably going to hit one of those, at least one of those humps. That's one of the reasons why I never was terribly enthusiastic about doing them in the first place, but then it became necessary. So you may be a little tight, but you may be even tighter than you think if we actually have a snowfall.
Yes.
So I think you ought to think it out well in advance as to how you're going to deal with that. Because we do have snow sometimes.
Any other questions on page 1? Moving on to page 2.
526170, you don't expect to have any contractual services?
For highways and streets, because the most of the things that we would do on contractual services would be built into the LMIG funds that have been set aside and budgeted as far as contractors.
Any other questions on page 2? Hearing none, we'll go down to the budget level. Any questions on either of those 2 pages? Hearing none, we'll move forward to buildings and grounds. Questions on page 1?
I have a question. It's more up in salaries. How many employees do we have operating on this budget?
Currently in building grounds, we have 14.
All right.
And
How
then we
many-
have, remember, the parks rangers have been moved, so you have the additional 6 built into this.
So we have 14 current employees
On payroll, yes, we do.
right now?
Yes.
Because I was told that we are down like 7 employees. That's what I was told by your crew.
We don't know.
These are the people that mow?
We don't have
Are these the
7.
people that mow?
No, which people?
Is mowing under building and grounds? Mowing.
Yes, yes. It's building grounds, you have the mowing crew, you have litter, you have your laborers, your equipment operators.
That's fine. It's just that since we on a budget, I was told that we're down almost 5 employees.
We are not. We probably are down 5 for the entire Public Works division. We had 19 vacancies. We have 5 openings. We are practically almost fully staffed. Now, the openings that we do have is because we promoted a few people recently. So those labor one positions are what we putting on the board for people to apply for while we're moving people up. But we have
Okay.
probably 5 within
That's
the whole
fine.
Public Works Department.
It's litter. How do we handle litter in this budget?
We have litter patrol people. We have 2 litter collectors, and we have them working various times through the week, but they're definitely here on the weekends.
Can it adequately do citywide 2 people? The only reason why I'm saying it is because there's a lot of litter in, more so maybe in some wards, the Old National area, the Garvey area, the Herschel Road area. I mean, it is a lot of litter. Now I'm seeing litter on, it is a lot of litter. Can you,
So the plan to control litter was definitely part of the major component was establishing the Keep College Park Beautiful, advisory commission. We have a tentative meeting next week, and I'm interviewing for the executive director position tomorrow. So the goal is to have more community outreach activities, whether it's in each ward or a whole citywide cleanup, which was very successful. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to ever have enough people in-house to handle litter. So that's why it needs to be a community effort. So that's the goal, is to establish the program, have weekend opportunities, also have opportunities where we can get people who maybe have some court issues or volunteerism, or also connecting with the Parks and Rec Department if we have any type of summer programs with youth to get them engaged.
I say this every budget year. The way I'm trained, the way I understand it, this budget item is as important as all your other budget items. It, to me, is as or more important than your communication, spending as much money as we do on software. It is not fair, it is not right to have 2 people. You need more people to manage these streets. The community do not want to come out and do volunteer groups with a city that brings in $140 million. It is not fair to the community. We need a clean city, and we need people out there working. That's just the communities that I was raised in.
Yeah, so we have the litter collectors that focus on that full time, and then when during slow times or when the mowing is complete, the laborers also help. So we just don't have 2 people. Everyone in building grounds picks up litter all the time. It's just after the mowing is completed.
You done?
Any other questions, Councilman Gay? Okay, other questions on page 1, Councilman Carn?
And just, just to piggyback on that, the salary overtime, I mean, I kind of understand his frustration in a sense, and this way before you got here. We definitely get the supplement, and we want the extra help and whatnot, but again, from what I've seen over the years, lack of communication and coordinating enough with courts to see what's actually going on and how we can set things up if spring and summer is coming and that's what we want to do, sitting down with the judge and figuring it out, that type of stuff.
We worked with the courts, but with COVID, we
understood.
definitely had some complications.
I got you. And the good thing,
being vaccinated
right.
and working with our staff. So,
understood.
But I will definitely put a plan in action to produce that.
And I'm thankful, hopefully, we're seeing the tail end of COVID, knock on wood, hopefully there's not another surge. And now that we're here, the communication, so we can facilitate that stuff, because we talk about it every year, and we do a little bit of it, and it's just never enough in a sense. Public Works, I love Public Works. I mean, absolutely. When we came in, we were talking about a $2 raise. I insisted on 3, and y'all hear me in here asking for 4, and Althea says it's going to be 4. And that's everybody, right? Street, sanitation, water, sewer, everybody, right? No, is that streets and sanitation only?
Sanitation. The ones that received the $3 increases were only a group of employees, and that's what I was referring to, not across the board.
Sanitation drivers.
All right. Well, only drivers or everybody?
Yes, that was drivers.
Not folks in sanitation? Okay, well, that wasn't my understanding. I didn't know that applied to drivers only. I didn't know that. Maybe the rest of y'all knew that, but I did not know that.
Yeah.
Is that going to be discussed in sanitation budget?
Well,
That was the communication.
That wasn't the communication I understood. Maybe I missed it.
I missed it as
But
well, Councilman Cohen. I thought it was across the board.
I thought it was at least sanitation, you know, but maybe I heard wrong, but I didn't hear drivers only, because I certainly would have said something. But maybe I did not hear it. You know, one of the, Public Works does y'all do a great job, don't get me wrong, and it's so very, very needed. But the biggest deficiency I see in Public Works is the weekend conundrum. The weekend conundrum. How do you get folks to want to work on Saturday, much less Sunday? And I guess, you know, obviously Sunday's a big thing. You got exceptions of folks that don't recognize Sunday, I guess, you know, with Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever have you, I don't know, but, you know, I really want us to really think about that weekend thing, because the caliber of residents we end up with, if you drive through here on the weekend, you're looking for some place to rent, and we're not all the way up to snuff as we would be on a Tuesday, per se. The folks that drive through that we're looking for in terms of for our schools and just in general to build the community up. Okay, well, if they see a trashy area because we don't have a lot of work going on the weekends, and there's a huge amount of trash thrown out on the weekends, and some of the containers overflowing on the weekend, they may say, well, I don't know, I was thinking about College Park, but it doesn't look up to snuff. However, if they come on a Tuesday or Wednesday, they might say, hey, this is more like it. And then the flip side of it, the folks that come out on the weekends because people work jobs and they come out on the weekends if they're looking for a new place, those that see a little more trash on your Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, some of them may say, hey, this is all right, I can work with this, you know. Then, again, it's all public safety. I just keep going back, Parks and Rec, you guys, it's all public safety at the end of the day. And that's what you get. I mean, you get what you pay for in a sense. If we can cover more on the weekends, we're going to get better, and the police are going to end up with less headache one way or another. I mean, you follow what I'm trying to.
Some minor adjustments to schedule to see if we can get people to work on Saturday and Sunday and have 2 days off during the week. I mean,
I don't know.
We can probably try and see if it'll work. I don't have a problem with doing that.
I just like to see. I mean, I drive around the apartments on the weekends, and you know, obviously, if we're not handling it, you know, things can overflow. You know, things can go a little. You know, there's some. You know, Friday nights. You know how it is.
Well, I also think that the
so
Keep College Park Clean program will get more people engaged and more people out there and more people thinking about it. And somebody might think twice before they throw litter out. So, you know, the programs that y'all have going, I think will make a big deal. So thank you very much for that as well.
Other questions on page 1?
No.
I had a grounds question, 52, 57, 80. What's going into the increase in that? I mean, I see the breakdown. I mean, I see the breakdown of it, but Keep College Park Beautiful is only about $5,000 of that, and so what are we doing more that?
And which one? Oh, so what I did was for Keep College Park Beautiful, I spread the funds in different divisions, so to kind of lessen. So I know there's some money in stormwater, I believe, to focus on beautification, and also here.
Okay.
And there is also some funding in sanitation for Keep College Park Beautiful.
So I mean, it looks like we're doing a significant investment, and I think I don't want to put words in your mouth, Councilman Gay, but you're probably going to be happy about that significant investment in additional flowers and plants and trees.
Which line item is that?
52, 57, 80.
Oh, okay. So wait till we turn the page.
Well, can you be happy on page 1 now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. But any other questions on page 1? All right. What you got on page 2, sir?
All right, look. I was actually, my equilibrium was good, my energy was good, but I lost it. It's back. So 50, unless I'm reading this wrong, 52, 57, 41, recommended 180,000. You requested 180,000. The city manager recommended $5,000. Now, before you, is that, ma'am? Before you answer that, let me say something.
Are you speaking?
No, and I'm talking to the camera.
Oh, I was gonna say.
The point is, what was, before you tell me what was why that budget was taken down, are we talking?
I'm sorry, excuse me.
When it's 50, 52, 57, 41. You recommended 180, right? Right?
Yes.
And it's requested 5,000, right? I don't know what that was, but what I'll tell you is under building and grounds, I have in my career, I have put hundreds of thousands of dollars in people's yards. I've owned homes with $100,000 in landscapes. How do you not spend money on a city with 15-mile streets and not take this serious? Bokazi sent me a text last budget session, said, Councilman Gay, you're spot on. You have to appreciate building and grounds. There's no way you can make your city beautiful if you don't appreciate. In communities of color, they do not put money in their grounds and beautify. Randy, he just told me the other day when we went on the trip, he said, Councilman Gay, we don't even have any money. Those were your exact words. He says, your exact words, and he's right. He worked at the airport where we put millions in those grounds. But to put $5,000 in building the grounds is offensive.
I'll be down here too. Okay, what's that one? It's more down.
And if I'm not mistaken, that 175,000 that's missing wasn't that that was one line item for the new positions we were going to request. I have to look at the detail, but that was $175,000 for one line item, and was it not? Which one was that?
No,
Probably 4 positions.
41 is for park equipment, repair, supplies, benches, and receptacles for the park.
For 175,000?
No, the request was for 180, and what was approved or recommended was 5,000.
5741 is.
Councilmember, make sure I'm clear on the section, because I'm looking at a different section.
Well,
Make sure I'm
50,
clear as to where you
50,
are.
50,
This is page 2 of 3 of Buildings and Grounds. It is line 52, 57, 41.
all I'm saying is that you should come out of this budget session with at least $1 million to beautify your city. I'm just saying, I'm just putting that out there. You can't have the college park that you're putting on these flyers and you don't respect keeping these grounds and keeping these employees highly paid and keeping these grounds and these, streetscapes. You can't do it. It's an oxymoron. You cannot do it.
In the details, this is
Councilmember-
supplies and benches and receptacles, according to the.
No, I have the detail here. It says Division Facilities Maintenance. It was a one-line item for 175,000, and I thought it related to the positions that we requested. It's right here. This is what you initially selected right here.
52, 57, 41 is park equipment repair, supplies and benches.
City manager. It's not that I'm trying to cross them up on what that line item. I'm
No,
just
no,
saying
it's
there's not
someplace
enough
else.
money in this budget.
Right, there is,
Building
that's
and
not,
grounds.
that's, Councilmember, that's not the total amount. When you go down a little further, we're going to see more funds for that, so they
Well,
can
at
take a look at that.
5780,
Yeah.
line 5780 has flowers, mulch,
Right.
pine straw.
Right. I was
Right.
just saying that was a.
Exactly.
That was
Let's go
increase.
through the other ones, Councilmember. You'll see a different level of commitment, and
That's over
they're
here
looking
on
at that particular line.
On the other one.
So, yeah.
Look at the detail, the budget
Yeah.
detail, page 103, it has those other line
Go
items.
down to the
So you're saying that's the equivalent of that 180? It's in there?
Go down to the next.
No, there's something else going on there, Joe, but it's not like there's nothing in there.
Some of it.
For beautifying.
Can we give the city
argue
manager, hey,
40,000
gentlemen,
is
there's like 4 different side conversations going on.
Look at the
And
bottom
so,
right there,
okay.
780.
Like, can we give the city manager an opportunity to?
41,000.
Right.
Right, we just talked about that prior to going to page 2. But can we give the city manager an opportunity and Ms. Ekvaria to get additional information on that? I know that Councilman Gay has questions. Are we prepared?
On that particular line, yes.
I'm sorry?
No, I'm saying thank you.
Okay, so let's come back to that particular issue.
Yes.
Any other questions on page 2?
Yeah, same line. City manager, I guess what you're hearing is, you know, we've got some great new developments off of Godby Road in Ken's district that are gonna be coming out the ground here soon. We want folks that are gonna want to buy and rent and purchase those areas and properties and keep their kids in our school and look around and say, this is great, the parks are great, they got Wi-Fi, this, that, and the other. We want folks buying parcels at 6 West so they can build whatever it is they want to build. They're going to come in here and they're going to take a look around and they're going to make a judgment call any day of the week or on the weekend, and particularly on the weekend potentially. We want folks buying parcels at Rockland Homes, 300 houses, $350,000 to $400,000. We really got to take a look at how much we're investing in terms of this city gets a lot of company. We get a lot of company here. We're a hospitality city, which means it needs to be kept clean 2 times, 3 times more than, I don't know, Union City or Fairburn. You know, we get a lot of company. You know, my next door neighbor, they would have people at their house all the time. And we as kids, we used to have to clean the house. They would clean it all the time. You know why? Because their mom and dad had a lot of company coming through all the time, and they were always cleaning and cooking. We didn't have so much company, so we didn't have to clean as much, thank goodness. But it's a difference of traffic, and that's the tale of this city. I think that's kind of what you're hearing here, and we're doing good. We're making good progress, but we're trying to step this thing up a notch. You know, we're talking about high-tech, state-of-the-art pods and $10 million bridges going across Camp Creek, and I think we're trying to figure out how to make preparations here with this here budget and make sure that we're up to snuff for what's coming. So it's time to step it up. We want to step it up.
All right, so we'll circle. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's what we want to, you know. So I guess that's what you're hearing over and over again, and we're making good progress. I'm excited about what's coming. And I want to make sure we're covered for what's coming and that we're paying folks decently for what's coming. So
we will circle back on line item 52, 57, 41. Are there any other questions on page 2? Hearing none, we'll move on to page 3, which is just totals. So that gets us to the budget level questions on page 1 of 3. Page 2. Page 3. All right, moving forward, we will move on to the next area of the budget. That is sanitation. Questions on page 1? I've got one.
Manager, I wasn't concerned about that line item. I was making an overall, that we need to put, at the end of this budget session, we need to see if there's a way to bring up our building and grounds budget.
Ms. Echevarria, did you want to explain the 175,000?
Yes, so, of course, it's called building and grounds. Now, we do ground maintenance, but actually, we don't maintain any of the buildings in the city. In order to save money, we propose to create a building maintenance division. And because of the cost, I need a facility to house them, I need vehicles and equipment to go with it. We went ahead and we removed that item out of the budget.
May I come in?
Yes.
So for years, as I talked to building and grounds superintendents, I've always heard that they're being pulled to do everything from put up Christmas decoration to take chairs out of GICC for our events, and they told me that they cannot do their job because they're being pulled. And the conversation has always been, why don't we create a building facility department? Because these guys are, even with just your events that we're having coming up, it is building and grounds. Actually, it's not really fair to building and grounds that they should be expected to do all of that. So it's not a bad idea.
All right, so, but we're moving on to the sanitation fund.
Excuse me, no disrespect. The purpose of sitting up here is to try and get monies in people's budgets. I'm not up here to make speeches. When I make a recommendation, I would either like for you all to say, well, you know, is there an opportunity? It's not to just be talking, otherwise I don't even have to come. We really need to try and look at keeping these guys from having to do all these other duties. So I would like city manager for that to come back to us as well.
We'll add it as a note, yeah.
All right, so we're moving on to sanitation fund. We're on page 1 of 4, line 34, 4130.
City manager, question, this is for you. So the building maintenance deal would be something conceptually instead of contracting out this stuff like we do when we have the issues. Is that kind of the idea?
Yes, that was the idea. We were going to have like a carpenter, a plumber, an electrician, so that we could do some of the things internally.
Well, you know, a lot of the other cities have got this, you know. Yes, we took a big hit with COVID, bigger than most cities, absolutely. I always say we hit the COVID trifecta because we're hospitality all the way. So, but we're going to come back just as strong as we did before. Now, you know, everybody's hurting for money. I mean, yeah, we got a little dent in the budget, but we're not that broke. I see things happening in this city that I haven't seen happen before in a sense. I mean, we can't even fix the front door of the police station. It's been months. We got a wood door with a padlock on it, like it's Mayberry or something. Now, I just, you know, this type of stuff of building, we need to look at this type of stuff. Now, we hired you, and I checked your reputation in East Point. It's impeccable. Okay. And it's, you know, I hear you asking for the stuff, and, you know, I think we need to look at it at some point.
And I absolutely said, yes, we'll look at that, absolutely.
I don't know, I mean, so I want to see us do better. We're doing okay, but I just see some things falling off.
So we're moving on to the sanitation fund. I've got a question on line 34, 4130. Looks like we are doing pretty well in selling recycled material, but the projection for next year is actually lower.
Just being conservative, because in 2021, we were only at 4,000.
Okay.
And we actually hit 21,000 so far?
Yes, I budgeted 15.
So what are like the big materials we're recycling? Is it just like the regular stuff, aluminum and whatever?
Cardboard, other materials.
Okay.
Other questions on page 1?
515010. So I was under the impression that we were gonna give all of the workers a raise. In fact, I was actually having a conversation with the guys that pull the cans, and they were like, Councilman Gay, thank you for the raise, and I thought they were getting it as well. It's only the drivers, and can we give all of the workers a raise in this budget?
All of the raises, all of the staff are getting a raise in this budget.
The entire sanitation department?
Yes.
Okay, well,
All of our employees are getting
I
raises.
thought early in the conversation.
okay, I just heard
you
only the
say
driver.
Only the drivers.
So prior to this budget submission, there was a group that we were able to give an increase to early, and that was the sanitation drivers. So the $3 that we granted was to sanitation workers. Then, in addition to
Sanitation
that,
drivers.
sanitation drivers, I think it's 10 of them. So the document that I presented to you should have suggested that we were giving 10 sanitation drivers the what Councilmember Kearns suggested, which should have been $3, and we did that. And then as we go into this budget, using the comp study that was done as a baseline, and then anybody who wasn't positively impacted by that, then they are getting the 5%, which is how we're giving everybody on our staff a raise.
And that's
So,
$142,000.
I'm sorry?
That's in the, what you, I see where you recommended.
Yes.
More, so that's in that number?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
sir.
great, thank you.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
I can hear what you're saying. And, yeah, but it's just not equity. I was under the assumption that the $3 that I insisted on from the $2, which I insisted today on $4, was for all of sanitation. Until this very moment, I did not realize that, and I'm assuming some of the other council members did not realize that. I just, our guys deserve a little more than that. I think we can do a little bit better. I mean, you were in East Point, right?
Yes.
Okay, quick question. What do we charge now for trash pickup? Is it still 18 bucks, something like that?
It is, I don't know precisely off the
18, 19 bucks?
I think it's more than that,
It's
though. Yeah.
somewhere around in there, right?
20, 21, 22, I would have to look at the detail, but we increased it by 10% about 2 years ago, I believe.
$21?
21, 22, I would have to look at
Okay.
the detail.
Okay, $22.
No,
No,
she's speaking of the year.
Of the year, I'm
The
sorry.
amount is,
It's still around 18?
yes.
Okay. So East Point, I know, was somewhere comparable there.
Right.
Now, we still pick up twice a week. And last time I checked, East Point picked up once a week. Is that right? Same money. Are y'all following me so far? Okay. In addition to that, we go to the side of the house, go to the back of the house, pick up, get your can out, roll it out, and when we dump it, we put it back. The reason we did that is because myself and Jack and a few others thought that when people got off of work, a lot of the times, and it's good to know some of the history of this, why we're doing this stuff. Some people don't get off till 6 p.m. Some people don't get off till 7. Some people get off at 3:30. And looking down the roads, it didn't look very uniform. Some people's cans were out. Some people's cans were strewn in the yard. Some people's cans was halfway up the driveway. Some people's cans were in. And we wanted things to look better and feel better. And my point is, for the same money, we give twice the service. And our residents are able to pay the same money. Our employees are doing more work than the East Point employees. They would have to be in that sense. I mean, so I'm just, city manager, we sit down and we contemplate this budget because we want the best for residents. And I say it all the time. Residents are number one. I always say that. I've never had any qualms about that. Staff, we love you. We can't do it without you. But staff still runs a close second in my book, because last time I checked, employees did not elect me to office, and they don't pay my salary. Residents do. And that applies to everybody up here, and city manager and everybody as well. We're doing good service, but if we want to keep that good service going, we got to pay the freight. And we cannot budget this city on the cheap anymore. And no, we don't have a whole heck of a lot of money, but we're making smart financial decisions, I believe. We got Ms. Tyus on board, so I ain't worried about coming into the third quarter. We're going to be all right. Let's cough up the money and stop managing on the cheap.
Maybe
Ms.
we can,
Echavaria, hold on, one second. She wanted to respond.
I would just like to say with the $3, that puts you above the average.
That's
for
great
the
for drivers.
Correct.
But the
Wait,
folks
let her
that
finish.
are,
Let her, Councilman,
But,
let her
um,
finish.
that
Let her
part.
finish what
Your
she's
pay
saying.
for collection is probably in line with the city of East Point. But in terms of that $3, keep in mind that they are CDL drivers, there's a truck shortage, and they really should have been an average about 18. With the $3 that was passed, that put them at $19 and $20 an hour.
Okay, we covered the drivers, and I'm glad we covered the drivers. But we're not like East Point in that sense. The folks that are doing the rest of the work outside of the drivers, we're not East Point. East Point don't have 36 hotels, 2 more coming out the ground. East Point doesn't have 75% rental in apartment communities. That means more trash than East Point, than Union City, than whoever else. And I understand what they're doing, but we're not them.
And respectfully,
Respectfully.
we lost one of our key persons over 15 years of intellectual knowledge out the door because we wouldn't give that person a raise. But I direct.
That wasn't accurate, that's not accurate.
I'm just saying.
It wasn't about money.
I'm just a messenger. So my point is, as some of the council members have said, we have a lot more services than most cities. And I'm up here fighting for y'all.
Yeah, I just didn't want you to think that it hasn't been an effort. And like I said, there was also, based off of that study, the whole Public Works Department to try to get people at their minimum wage received an increase as well in August of last year as well.
Yes, ma'am. I respect that, but our goal is to try and find funds so you can have an optimal department. So it's like, we're here fighting for you, so we receive it, you know?
I think this is something that we possibly could take another look at later on. If money comes in the way we expect it to come in, you know, we'll be looking at the budget again. They can always come back to mayor and council, as we have done in the past. And
Probably take a look at it mid-year.
And add additional monies.
Take a look at it through the first 2 quarters
mean-
and see how things go. Because
I agree.
we still have a certain level of uncertainty here.
That's right.
We have an environment where I saw this afternoon that a major U.S. city is reimposing their mask mandate because of the new variant that's coming out. And so we don't know what the next few months are going to hold. We hope that we are going to continue this momentum.
And
That
I'm
we are
hoping-
going to continue to have the opportunity to host events at the GICC, to keep 6 West on track, to bring in all of the business to the hotels and keep people traveling. But we don't know. And I think that Ms. Tyus told us, when she sat down with every single one of us weeks ago, she said that her goal with this budget was stability.
Thank you.
And stability is what we have to get to stability. And I hear that, I mean, there is no argument, I don't think, from anyone on this panel that the employees who work for this city and serve our residents do an outstanding job, day in, day out, and go the extra mile all of the time. Let's see where we are at the end of 2 quarters.
And I'm hoping that we can bump
Absolutely.
it up.
Sure.
That's where we can look at it and see how the money's coming in, bump it higher than we thought we could, depending on, so.
But if
That-
we're looking
I
for
agree.
stability right now,
But there's no director who, I agree, but a lot of you all have gotten raises when you came to these positions. Before you were hired, you asked us for certain raises. It's a matter of equity. Everybody, without calling, have gotten raises. So now we're talking about our lower tier, and so now it's a matter of equity. That's all I'm saying.
And Mayor, you're right. There's a lot of uncertainty. Ken, you're right. There's a lot of instability. We don't know what's going to happen. One thing I do know that's going to happen is that trash is going to be on the ground, and it's going to have to be picked up. COVID, no COVID, bad weather, good weather, convention center, typhoon. Equity, I think, and I mentioned that a couple of times. We gave some nice big raises, and we got some nice big salaries, and that's great and wonderful. And those folks, I'm not poo-pooing you guys at all. That's wonderful. That's great. But the lower end, the difference in a few dollars is absolutely tremendous. I've been there. Believe me, I'm not telling you something that I read about or I heard about. You know, it's here. And our responsibility is to cover everybody with equity as well. And I just want to make sure we're doing that this time. I'm not doing things the way I used to. And if you're doing the same things the way you used to, what's the need of coming back? You come back, you learn from your mistakes and things that you could tweak and do better. And that's what I'm trying to do. So.
Well, let me just say one thing. I think I remember sending an email to you guys, and I think I cited in that email what I thought, on average, an increase we were going to have to give to our employees, on average. And some we gave more to. We gave the police department 20%, for example, the sworn officers, and some will give less to. I think I also cited in that it's the lowest income people that are most significantly impacted by the inflation that we're going through. So we got to take care of that. I also think we need to upgrade the Capitol, and we have a proposal to do that. Significant proposal. We've improved the technology in the police department. We did a big increase, 1.8 million on that, to improve efficiency and officer safety and get more out of the people that we have working there. And I totally agree that the Public Works Department goes above and beyond, has always done that. But there was something else I said in the letter, guys, and that letter I said was we're going to have to raise taxes. And I know nobody wants to raise taxes, and nobody wants to hear that. But what I've heard tonight is everybody is saying, well, you know, we need to do more here for our employees, and I totally agree with it. But I haven't seen yet, and I'm hoping to see it for our council meeting on Monday, when we go to approve the capital improvement program. I'm assuming that's going to be on the agenda.
Yes, sir, it is.
And I'm hoping to see for that what the capital requirements are going to be for the next 5 years. So we're going to put out all this capital, but I'll make you a bet that it's not going to be $0 every year for the next 5 years. So I totally agree with our city manager that we need stability in the organization. You can be penny wise and pound foolish. You cut maintenance on your vehicles, you drive them until they drop, and you're eaten alive by the maintenance costs. So it's good financial sense to do all this stuff. But having said that, you need to deal with the financial reality. I want to see what the capital expenditures are realistically anticipated to be over the next 5 years. And when I see that, and we take into account some of the adjustments that people seem to want tonight, then I want to take a look at what the revenue is. And I'll say it again, I believe we are going to have to raise taxes. I'm talking about property taxes primarily, but maybe somebody has a better idea. And so I'm just saying, guys, I agree with everything I've heard so far, but we're just whistling by the graveyard if we don't look at what the financial realities are in capital expenditures and in future revenue. And I agree with the mayor said about uncertainty. We do not know whether there's going to be another wave of uncertainty. We don't know whether some of this income that we think may come in of selling property is going to take place. So I know no one wants to hear it, and no one wants to say it, but I'm going to say it. I think we're going to have to raise taxes. So as you make your remarks about adding things on to make the city look better and to do all these things, just remember that the other side of that coin is you're going to have to raise taxes if you carry it too far.
You're right. You're right.
So enough said. I'm the guy who throws cold water on the fire, but that's a reality that we're going to have to deal with.
Well, there's a balance there as well. You know, when you give somebody a $2, $3, $5, $10 raise an hour, and then you raise their taxes to where they're paying a lot more taxes, you know, it kind of offsets that. So there's a lot of other factors you need to look at, but I definitely think we need to look at the pay and where that is for everyone.
Well, I can tell you, Ken, that the people that are impacted most in this city, that are workers for the city, that are living in the city, those are the people that very likely aren't going to see a raise in taxes if they actually own their home, because they're to the same degree because they have the homestead exemption. So I also think that it is going to be the people that are moving into the homes that have gone up 50% and have gone up from 500,000 to 750,000, to be honest with you, that are going to get hit with the increased property taxes. And it's not going to be that are significant.
Well, the homestead exemption is passed. That's going to the governor's desk. I think that's going to happen.
That's the elderly people.
Right, for the elderly. That takes care of that. The most tax will offset some funds that we could free up with the most tax taking care of that water and sewer portion thereof. So we got some good components in here as well if we have to raise. But I agree with Ambrose that we're going to have to raise some taxes.
I disagree on that, gentlemen. I think
fine.
that there's a recent article in the Business Chronicle that the values in Cobb have gone up 10%. Fulton is still out on that, but there's been a significant increase. I think our budget anticipates an increase in the tax digest of 3%. Is that correct, Ms. Flora Bradley?
Yes, it does.
And I think that we're going to see an increase in the tax digest that is in excess of 3%, given the number of sales that we've seen that are increasingly larger in this community. So we've gone on record and said what we had to say about it, but we're still not looking at the sanitation budget, and I want to get everybody back on that. So are there questions on page 2? Line 5180, second line. Uniforms, is that a realistic number considering we've gone about 150% over budget?
Yes. Again, we met with Moody, well, it's Moody.
Oh, it's going to go down.
Cintas. It
Okay.
is, yes.
I apologize. Yep, same answer. Okay, thanks.
I'm glad to see money's going into training.
And tires.
Any other questions on page 2? Moving to page 3.
I have a question on 526140. I even hate to say this now that we're talking about money, but so I was called by a couple people who can't afford to surrender their pets, and they called me about a $300 fee, and they live in apartments. My question is there any opportunity to have a contingency for anybody who can't afford to surrender their pets in the dog pound fees. Can we put a line item to cover some of our families that can't afford to surrender their pet?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure that I understand surrendering your
So-
pets.
If you have a pet in College Park and you can't afford the pet, and you can't, throw the dog out on an animal because you go to jail now.
Correct.
So the Atlanta Humane Society do not accept you to drop your pets off. So the city of College Park charges $300 in the way of a ticket, right?
Yes.
To surrender your pets. So someone called me and asked me, I could ask if there was a way that we could put a line item to help families that can't afford to surrender their pets, to cover that cost.
What does surrendering your pet mean?
You get rid of your animal, you can't get rid of your
Can't
animal
take it to the pound.
legally anymore. You have to surrender it. If you just let the dog, pet go out, you could be, it's a felony, right? You can't just let your animal
No,
loose now.
It's a misdemeanor.
Misdemeanor?
Yes.
So all I'm saying is there anywhere in the contingency, I see you got a contingency for 72,000, is there anywhere where we can cover surrendering pets for families who can't afford
May I ask a question in relation to that? How many pets do you see that are surrendered to the city on a yearly basis on average?
I can get that number for you. Do you know how many? But I know probably, I don't know, maybe a few a week at least.
At least.
Yes, at least a week.
At least 2 to 3 a week.
Yes.
When they come in pay.
Surrender.
That they're coming in and they're saying, I can't take care of this animal, and so I'm giving it to the city. And so then that animal goes to Fulton County Animal Control,
Right.
correct?
Yes,
We
then we
give
can,
them
what we can do is.
bill for $300?
But I'm sure they bill us.
I can provide you a
I'm
detailed
sorry.
list.
I'm sorry. The question that I was asking, and he'll get it, that people who come to surrender their pets, they're generally not, as a rule, charging them.
No,
If you-
I think.
It's $300, right?
I know, but yeah. I mean, so there's a fee. Let us check with animal control to see how much that happens, because it sounds like they're managing that process pretty flexibly. And if you find somebody who is having that challenge, let us know.
I got a copy of the ticket from us.
Okay, I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm saying that when someone comes to surrender and they're unable to pay, just as a practice. So let us take a look at what the facts are showing with that.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Other questions on page 3?
Yeah, same line. One of the things we need to keep in mind as well is that, and Ms. Tyus, again, I'm glad you're here. This is, first budget, first kinks, working through everything, but this is good discussion. A few years back, I spearheaded a dangerous dog ordinance, and one of the reasons is because in my communities, which were primarily apartments, you had a lot of, just overboard. Pets are great to have a lovable pet and all of this type of business, but these dangerous dogs, in one sense, it was a situation where my managers would constantly beg and plead with the city and say, well, we got a pet fee, but they bring in these great big animals, they tear up these apartments, they ruin the carpets, the children are afraid to go out and around and about, they walk these dogs all over the place, and, this is the thing, the pit bulls, the Rottweilers, the German Shepherds, these great big dogs, and it's more of the ferocious dogs, more or less. We got a huge backlash from a lot of folks. PETA in particular, they sent me letters talking about dog discrimination, saying we were picking these types of animals and not picking on, I guess, the poodles or whatever have you. But my point is, we don't have time to enforce that, partly because Mike's, doing some cleaning. you said. So, but we're straightening that out. This is good. This is progress. But the point is, in that ordinance, just about, I would say 60% of the animals that are in the apartment communities, which is 75% of the community, do not have that insurance requirement, do not have those shots and the things that are in that ordinance that keeps a lot of that stuff out of here, that keeps a lot of that puppy mill breeding, selling, all of that nonsense out of here. You know, so it might be good to let's take a look at that ordinance and see what we got, the tools that we do have, and if we were to enforce it, and that requires a lot more communication with the apartment managers. I got a dog
I'm sorry,
up here
sir. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What are we in? What? I'm sorry.
The dangerous dog ordinance. There's a dangerous dog ordinance, and make sure you just get a chance to take it. And I know we've given you a ton of stuff coming in, but that's why you got number 2, man. Where is he at?
Yeah, he's got it.
Is that it? Oh, I thought it was. Okay, well, maybe this is something for him.
It's
I don't
probably
know.
not. Okay, gotcha.
But let's look at that, and let's, again, that could eliminate a lot of our issues out of these apartments in general, in terms of wear and tear, and just in terms of, you know, in my opinion, that takes the neighborhoods in the wrong direction.
Well, Joe, if they don't have money to surrender their pets, that says that most of them don't have money to even probably afford to keep the pet. It costs a lot more to keep a pet, especially a pit bull or one of the other dangerous dogs. They wanted me to come on Saturday morning radio and explain to the Metro Atlanta audience why I was pushing for that ordinance. So after 4 of my constituents were attacked by a couple dogs. But yeah, we don't have people registering for the dangerous dog ordinance. It's on the books. They're supposed to have insurance. They're supposed to have vaccinated, et cetera, et cetera. And check with the city clerk's office.
We haven't had one in a couple of years.
You haven't had one in a couple of years,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I can name one person that has registered their dog in the past in my ward, and that's the only one I know of that had done it.
It's because you don't have to. No one's checking, and no one's, you know,
Well, Mike
following, you know.
Intal, he checks. He used to refer them to my office, but I don't think.
Well, in my apartment communities, and I'm sure he is checking, but there can be a lot more done there. This is just, again, like I said, it's all public safety at the end of the day. It's all public safety, and this is just a big part of it. And, you know, we got that ordinance. We're not enforcing that ordinance enough. And we can free up Mike to do some of that and take a look at some of that. If he goes by any of these apartment complexes and talks to a couple of the leasing agents, they'll be happy to tell him, but we got a dog over here in D6 that I know there's no business there, and we've been trying to get them out of there because they're tearing up the apartment, they're scaring the children up and down the breezeway and everything else. And they do their business where they're not supposed to be doing it, and it's just hard to control. But we've got a tool for that removes that element out the community. And I want it out the community. You know, not that I don't love dogs and I had dogs and the whole nine, but I want it out because I don't think it takes the community in the right direction.
Gentlemen, this is a great conversation that probably is best suited for a workshop session, but it doesn't have anything to do with 526140. Are there other questions on page 3? Moving on to page 4.
Where are we, Mayor, in budget level?
We have not moved to this budget level yet. We're on page 4 of the sanitation fund.
58,200 is the lease on the street sweeper covered at 100%, or do we have to cover an additional cost? The sweet street.
No, that's not the street.
No, I know. Is that not the sweet street?
No.
Is it a line item for it?
Yes, but not in sanitation.
Oh, that's not on the sanitation?
No. That'd be under
Building and ground?
stormwater.
Huh? Stormwater is the street sweeper?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions on page 4? All right, any questions on the budget level? Pages 1 through 5.
Oh, I was going to ask about the street sweeper, but it's in a different section.
Yes.
Same thing, Councilman Gay and I were on in the same place as to what happens with our beloved street sweeper.
The investigation was last week with the company to investigate the incident with the street.
And hopefully they're going to replace it.
Yes, we haven't heard back. When we get that information, we will share that with the risk manager, HR director, and we'll go forward from there.
Good.
All right, we're on to stormwater. Stormwater Utility Fund. Page 1. Any questions?
Is this just the 3 salaries here?
Yes, and stormwater, we have 3 people.
I like the sales to commercial, looks like it's going up.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Big time.
Yeah.
Director, I have a question.
Yes.
On the stormwater, and I just tell me where to look for it. The stormwater line policy, is that enforced, whether residents pay us to ensure their stormwater drain? Didn't we agree on that with GMA 2 years ago?
This is with NLC. It's a
It was with
home line
the
warranty.
National League of Cities.
Yeah.
It's the home warranty program for water, sewer, and storm.
Is the portion that they pay us in this budget?
They don't pay.
They
us.
don't pay the city.
They don't pay us?
That's with
No.
an outside company. They don't pay the city directly, or the city's actually associated with it. The goal was to advocate and educate, to have residents an option, so when they had any type of major water, sewer, or storm repairs,
Okay.
they would pay a small deductible, very small deductible compared to
Okay,
a
I'm
full
sorry, I
price.
thought they
yes.
paid us in their bill or something. All right.
Any other questions on page 1? Page 2.
Page 2.
Yeah, I have one on line 526170, contractual. What services were added? Are these the ones we were talking about earlier, I think? That
Yes, mainly our regulatory compliance reports.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
I got it.
Okay.
And one of the biggest problems, and you know this because we've been out on site several times, is the city-owned creeks and basins. Is there a contingency to deal with those?
So anything that is on city property, not on private property, we do maintain those, and those are built into the stormwater. And matter of fact, that's what the crew does now to get us in compliance by the April 30th deadline.
That's built in the stormwater
Yes.
line item?
Yes, it's in operations. That's what they do every day. That's part of their operational daily function, is to maintain the,
But it's
private.
those 3, how many employees is in stormwater?
3.
So those 3 employees will be maintaining the creeks and basins throughout the city, is what you're saying?
Yes, we don't actually have a lot that are actually city-owned. So in that aspect, the 3 is good, and then we also have the highways and street divisions that help and assist.
And when Mr. Mason was here, he talked to us about having a contingency for material, like riprap and all of that. Is that, are
Well,
we
it has
covering
to be
those
a little
costs?
bit, that is the area outside of the creek is state property. Inside the creek is federal government. So we can't place any type of material, and if we can, it would have to be surely for maintenance. So we can't place riprap there. That wasn't there. That's a Army
So do
Corps
you-
Engineers violation.
So do you maintain a citywide GIS map of all city-owned creeks? Because as you know, in Ward 4, we're called about this daily. And your answer is always, we're gonna get a map of all our city-owned basins. So is that gonna be done in this budget?
We have, it shouldn't be difficult, because what we do, we have the creeks, and then we have our structures. And of course, those outfalls are going to the actual creek, so it shouldn't be hard to provide it all.
And you don't need any funding for that?
No.
Line
Most
50.
of most of the information is in GIS now. It's just the ability to pull it out and put it on a map for you.
Okay. That's fair.
You finished, Councilman Gay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Line 52, 6590, contingencies. Doesn't look like anything was spent this year.
Yeah, normally we do not spend, there shouldn't be any charges sitting in contingencies. It should be, if they don't have enough budgeted in the line item, they would move the funds from contingencies, but we wanted to identify each expense in appropriate line item, so they're able to do that.
Okay. Other questions on page 2?
Is 7110, safety supplies? I just want to make sure they have enough supplies, safety supplies, not only for here, but for,
Across
you
the
know,
board.
the sewer and everywhere else, because I see them out in the holes digging and so forth. Want to make sure they have the supplies they
Yes,
need.
that's our priority, yes.
Okay.
Last line, 4001, utility assistance, is that the credit, or is that something else?
That was through the Fulton County Utility Assistance Grant.
You say
That's an
we got
expense.
some of that?
Yes, we did, and then the residents applied for the assistance.
Okay.
We spent those funds.
Questions on page 3?
It's 582200 sweet sweeper.
The street sweeper, we have a lease for that. Is that the one that caught on fire?
Yeah, so it says, yep, it says, street
Yeah,
sweeper
there
purchase.
is a budget for the lease.
One is lease and one is interest.
Yes.
Any other questions on page 3? All right, at the budget level, any questions on those 3 pages?
Let's see, it's page 3 of 3, line 7770. Best Road Project, ongoing mitigation project.
Which one?
What is that exactly?
So we have a list of projects, I want to say, that we provided to Fulton County Emergency Management. And so we met with them, with Chief Wade and Ms. Smalls, and we had not completed any projects in 5 years. And that's not, we can't do that. So we budget one project to complete per year. And that's one of the projects that we're setting funds aside so that we can complete this next fiscal year and update our emergency management plan with Fulton County.
All right, sounds good.
Moving on to water and sewer.
I have a question on that, Madam Mayor.
On water and sewer?
Yeah.
All right, and then on page 1?
It's for this gentleman that's coming down here, Tim. Mr. Tim,
Thank you, guys.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you,
y'all.
gentlemen. You
My
too.
question on water and sewer is, the first question I have, are we taking care of you?
Oh, I mean, yes, sir.
Any questions on page 1? Page 2.
The distribution center system, 5790, 240,507.
Okay, so yeah, we have a lot in there. We have on-demand water construction services for $100,000. And we know we need that and utilize that often for emergencies. We have preventative maintenance for our pump stations. We have repair and maintenance of our pump stations. We have replacement of valves, fire hydrants built into that cost. And we definitely have our regulatory compliance with Georgia EPD. We're required to take stream samples, especially when we have a super spill. We also have the Georgia Department of Natural Resources. We take our samples and they analyze them at the state lab. They're increasing those costs. And we have tank maintenance for Charleston and West Fayetteville. And we also want to implement a valve exercise program so that we're able to turn the water off and make repairs instead of doing them under pressure.
And that gives you enough money for the pump stations, the valves and everything at the pump stations, right? Keep the pump stations moving.
Do we have enough money budgeted for water leaks? I understand that's an issue that we wanted to improve.
We do. The goal is to probably implement a more aggressive leak detection program and also have funds to probably initiate, and again, I'm praying on the most, is to start replacing some of the degraded water lines so we don't have as many leaks and breaks. So the goal is to start having an aggressive capital improvement program where we replace so many linear feet of pipes per year. But again, and under better conditions and times, we will be able to do that.
Melissa, we just installed, several years ago, we installed leak monitoring equipment in various parts of the city water system.
We did.
Is that still working?
No.
Why is it not working?
According to staff, cost, but I can initiate that again. That's not a problem. It's just funding. So, yep.
Well, I mean, has it just gotten old and deteriorated or rusted out, or why is it?
It was canceled. It wasn't built in the cost to maintain the program. And now what you have is outdated. So you would need new monitors. So you have two options. You can purchase them, or you can have a company where you lease them and they take care of the batteries and maintenance costs. But with technology these days, it changes so fast that within 1 or 2 years, if you chose to buy them, you would have to buy them again. So I would recommend leasing leak detectors from a company to do that.
We spent a bunch of money putting in that equipment. At one point in time, we were wasting about, I think it was at least 20% of the water that we purchased or drew out of the well, in our own case, was being wasted. And so we put leak detectors in throughout the city, and I think we noted, and we started repairing a lot of water lines where the leak detectors indicated they needed being done. And you're telling me that system no longer works?
No, it wasn't continued.
Do you have any rough idea of what it costs to replace that system?
To start, at least probably 100,000 minimum. I mean, that is what I would think with the
to
cost.
lease it?
Yes. And then you can
100 a year then?
You can do two. You can do the ones that are fixed, and you can have the ones that you can move from location to location. So if you wanted to save money, I recommend doing the ones that we can actually move from location to location. So let's say that it detected a leak. We go ahead and we fix and repair or replace that line, and we can move it somewhere else in the city. So we probably can, minimum probably that, 100,000 maybe with the equipment.
Have you done a cost-benefit analysis as to how much we're wasting in buying water a year that would go toward financing the leak detectors, whatever you chose to do, whether you move them around or lease them or buy a whole new set?
I can look into it. I did inquire about the cost, but we had other programs that I feel that we need as well, but that is a priority because we are required to do an audit of our system every year, and we do have we don't have a leak detection program. One we should have.
You know, Ambrose, I don't know if you remember, but we still buy our water from you guys, from East Point.
Don't say you guys, I'm
East
College
Point.
Park.
You're College Park now. That's right. That's right.
Wash out your mouth.
Mia Copa. Yes. And I remember, I guess this was a while ago, it used to be about $3.60 per 1,000 gallons, I think, one of the last times before I left out of here.
It's not far from that. It's close to that
And
amount.
Ambrose, you remember we paid the guy about $260,000 that claimed he would go into all of our system and find every leak. You remember we paid that down?
Yeah.
And it was.
And we put in leak detectors throughout the system.
Yeah,
And,
but.
and now you have other companies, I don't think it's as effective, but they can actually take like GIS and spatial data, and it discolors areas of concern where the soil is overly saturated to give you the likelihood of a leak in the location. So there are other ways, but I definitely think the detectors are more accurate than the spatial data.
I would totally agree with
But
that.
it's a start, and it's cheaper than $100,000 to do that.
If I had to pick, I'd move the leak detectors around. I'd buy the leak detectors. I assume that you have fittings for these that you can unscrew the old leak detector, put the new one in, et cetera,
And
right?
they have some that you can put them also on hydrants as well. So
Where?
On hydrants, on the hydrants, the fire hydrants. So
Really?
They have different, they have different,
Okay, well, that's great technology then. So if we do that and we move them around, that we probably know from some of the fixes that we're making in different parts of the city where the pipes are old or they're more likely to have corroded because we're fixing more breaks there. You start out by putting the leak detectors in those areas.
yes.
Well, guys, not only is it probably a cost savings, but it's an environmental concern. We're wasting a lot of water.
Any
All right, is
questions?
that it? That's not in this budget, though.
No.
Well, there's another one for us.
What would it cost to get it in, what's the cost of it?
Like I said, I think a minimum of probably 100,000, but I can, we can do other options. I'll look for the most cost-effective way.
City manager, put it on that list.
And we'll do the list and give you guys a bottom line of what that means.
All right.
And I'll admit to you, I really like the thought of doing a review mid-year, of being careful of how much we increase this, just because. I mean, we've been very. So we should definitely take care of things that are really critical. But I'm just going to caution out loud,
Yes, ma'am.
and hope that you'll give yourselves an opportunity to let us fly this kite
Sure.
and see if it will.
I have a question regarding water. You mentioned that there are a lot of pipes that have to be repaired. So we just authorized $2 or $3 million for in a bond for street paving. So what can we do to make sure that we don't pave streets and can go right back and cut them up? And is that, if we find pipes, is that budgeted before we pave the streets? Because these are old streets too.
Well, I would say, most communities are, I would say water and sewage is out of sight, out of mind. So most residents and people more care about potholes. They don't take into account the infrastructure underneath.
Sure.
So we put forth T-SPLOST, but we have no way of replacing the infrastructure underneath.
Sure.
So if I knew we have a plan, we know which streets need to be done. We know which water lines and sewer lines need to be done. What we can do is definitely try to avoid those streets, because if anything other than an emergency, I mean, we can avoid it so that we're not having to resurface or do any patching over those. We will do our best, but right now, those programs were put before. So for us to catch up, it's a hard answer.
Do we have questions on page 2? I want to make sure that we're getting a little afield here, and I know that there's some. This again is a great conversation for a workshop session. But are there questions on page 2 for the water sewer fund?
Yeah, and Melissa, Tim, I know we're about to wrap up, which is good. I wanted to ask y'all about something concerning Mr. Azar's property over there. I guess you know what I'm talking about. Yes. And Melissa as well. Just like literally 2 minutes.
Any questions on page 2? Moving to page 3. Page 4. Page 5 has one line. On the budget level, any questions on pages 1 through 7 of the budget level?
Was it page 3 or 5, the other insurance, I just see it's up a bit, 6110. I don't know if that was, something in particular or not, but
Where are you, Joe?
3 or 5, 6110.
It's the Apex policies.
That's the Apex policy.
Okay,
Oh,
so
that's
it's just
Apex.
an increase or just a projected increase?
It's just a
Correct.
distributed cost.
All right. Okay.
I've got one on page 5. Our water purchases from East Point and Clayton County. And my question is, how much of our water these days are we getting from our wells? What percentage of our water are we getting from our wells? And do you know how much we're saving?
We're getting about 3 to 4% from the wells.
About 3 to 4%.
Yes.
And we, to my knowledge, we have not yet capped the well.
They're not producing as much water, I think as originally had intended. Like I said, 3
I'm
to 4%.
sorry?
The wells are not producing as much water. Am I correct?
It was producing less, but
Yes.
was it earning its keep?
Well, no, because we have to pay a separate company that specializes in well water treatment just to handle the chemicals and treatment of the wells.
So you're saying that we're losing money on one of the wells, the one that we want to cap. Is that correct?
No, that, Brady was, it was never a high-performing well. No, not according to the water
Pardon?
reports of the SCADA. It never produced a lot of water, probably 2%, maybe 1%. It never produced a lot of water. And like I said, we have to pay a separate company. The water that we get from East Point and Clayton County is already treated and is placed into.
I know all that.
But the
we
wells-
have 4 wells, right? Okay?
No.
Those wells were producing water $1 less with all the treatment and everything going on. The information we were given, this council was given, was that those wells, when they were put in, were producing water, if you took into account the treatment of it, if you took into account the amortization of the capital costs, that we were coming in at least $1, may have been $1.50 cheaper than what we could buy the water from East Point. That's what we were that's what we were told. I looked at the numbers, that's what the numbers said. So has the production of the wells gone down, or
It's
the
been-
numbers were wrong, or what?
So I don't know how far, the data that I went and investigated, because I went 3 years back from the time that I started last year, it has been the same. Even on our water regulatory reports, the wells do 3% to 4% provide water. They've always been the same. They never were more than that.
So I'll get back to my previous question, and that is, if they're only producing 3% of the water, are the costs of maintaining and amortizing the well, the capital investment of the well, costing us more than it would cost to cap the well?
The answer is yes.
Pardon?
Yes.
Then we need to cap the well.
Okay, would you, city manager, would you please get Melissa and Jackson together and find out why we have such a disconnect? Thank you.
Any additional questions on the budget level, those 7 pages?
I had one last one on 3 of 5. Contractual Services, 6170. It's like it jumped up to 93,000. I'm just curious what that was. 6170, page 3 of 5.
Okay, so for other contractual services, that's the alarm system that we need for our facilities. As you know, in our risk and resiliency study, we have some upgrades that we need to make for homeland security of our water system. And we also put O&M production for the wells, and that's $90,000.
Is that for capping them and knocking them down?
No, that's for the well production, treatment, and maintenance.
But we're winding them down, I guess.
We're not winding them down.
No.
We were only talking about capping
We're only
one.
capping
Only
one.
capping the one.
Just
Okay,
That was
okay.
associated with the development in the,
The six west one.
So that'll leave
Got
us
it,
with
got
2,
it.
is that correct?
Okay. All right.
3, okay.
All right.
Any other questions on the budget level?
Is 53, 6010 a question under the budget worksheets, page 4 or 5? My question is, and I'm just trying to learn, if we get the most tax, does that affect our sewer costs? Well, if we get the most tax, do we have a sewer cost? The most, isn't the most tax related
The
to
most is
our-
for replacing and installing new infrastructure or degraded infrastructure.
Right, so my question is, where in our budget tonight in the workshop, or if we missed it, where we anticipate the most, that we take in, if we take that out of the cost?
Can't
That,
anticipate because
we can't factor that in because since it hasn't been passed.
Which line item will it impact if we get it?
no, so that would affect more capital because it's infrastructure replacement.
Okay,
Yeah, not operations, it's for infrastructure.
okay, fair enough. And my other question is on 53, I'm sorry, 58, 2000, what bonds do we
Let's say that,
have?
I'm sorry.
What bonds do we have in water and sewer? A bond principal and a bond interest? Just refresh my memory, what bonds are those?
where are we?
5,
We're on page 4 or 5 of the
58,
worksheet.
1100, and 58, 2000.
I would have to look at the detail,
Okay.
because it's from 2015. Hold on one second. Okay, on March 5th, 2015, it was city issued $8.7 million project bonds with varying semi-annual payments. This doesn't go into detail as far as like exactly what the bond was issued for, but it was related to water and sewer capital projects.
Could you, for the end of the budget session, could we find out?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions within the worksheet itself? Okay, moving on to the budget level. Questions on pages 1 out of 7. 1 through 7. All right, hearing none. That is the conclusion of our session this evening, ending right at 10 o'clock. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.